Lunch Money, presented by FantasyGuru.com on Bettor Sports Network.
68-team bracket for the 2023 NCAA tournament. It was released Sunday night. The top four seeds were Alabama, Kansas, Houston, Purdue. Basically, everybody expected those four as number one seeds in some order. The last four in Mississippi State, Pitt, Arizona State, Nevada. First four out, Oklahoma State, Rutgers, North Carolina, Clemson.
But these talks have been going on and have intensified since the Combine. The Bears were in position to make this deal, and they had multiple suitors for the number one overall pick. Carolina felt like this was the right compensation package. The Panthers believe they have 48 days, and they've got the right coaches in the building right now. Frank Reich, Josh McCown, others, their general manager, Scott Bettor, to assess this quarterback class and to make a decision.
Young pumps it, looking, steps back, in the end zone, touchdown, Alabama!
That big four of the Padres, the huge piece of that is Fernando Tatis Jr. He can take part in spring training, but cannot return from his suspension until April 20th.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
Well, I got to say, a lot has happened in the previous 70-plus hours since we last said hello. We welcome you into Lunch Money on a Monday. Let's see, you hear the sound there, courtesy of ESPN and MLB radio and Alabama football and all that good stuff. And Ray, a lot has changed. WBC, we got the Bears trading out of the number one spot. We've got the March Madness is upon us. And oh yeah, we even lost an hour over the weekend. So, and today, for those who don't know, Ray, you probably need to know this. Today is National Napping Day. This is the day that you are allowed to legally catch up on the sleep that you missed out on Sunday night.
Yeah, I know what I'm doing this afternoon now. Yeah, that's, and by the way, I'm one of those people, the power nap is my friend. And I'm talking like 15, 20 minutes. Like if I lay down to take a nap and it ends up becoming like 40 minutes or something, I get groggy, like really, like 15 to 20 minutes. I'm happy. That's my happy zone. And it's great to know that there's a day to celebrate me today.
Yeah. Today is that day. Hope everybody had a great weekend. We had a wonderful weekend. Both Ray and I were kind of relaxed, laid back. So we're energetic, ready to attack the weekend. It's going to be a big week here at Lunch Money. You know, not only the March Madness stuff and the continuation of the WBC and spring training, but NFL free agency gets rolling hardcore. In fact, I think later today, the actual legal tampering process can begin. Free agency where signings can be announced. That doesn't start until Wednesday afternoon, but tampering begins today. Ray, I always get a kick out of that phrase, legal tampering. I don't know how those two things go together, but the NFL has brought those two words together.
Yeah, they've created a whole industry around nothing. They've created a whole industry around oddities, including bending the language to mean something it doesn't, because that doesn't make a lot of sense. By the way, I love this, and I didn't know this until the weekend. Lamar Jackson, who doesn't have an agent, can't negotiate with anyone today or tomorrow because you have to wait until Wednesday for the league's official season to start now because he missed the window. The window changed. So everything was fine until Sunday. Now Monday, Tuesday, it's a different space. He doesn't have an agent, so he can't talk to now anyone until Wednesday. So that's another example of Lamar kind of shooting himself in the old foot without the agent.
What about his mom? Isn't she kind of can they give a call, or is she cooking, or like maybe washing the car?
You might not have to have a license to officially be an agent. I don't know. Some kind of certification. Yeah, I don't know, Kyle. I don't know.
Well, I can tell you this: the NFL. We'll dig into this later. There's action. We've got restructuring of contracts. Just had a trade go down. We've got a guard who, Ray, I'll be honest with you, I've never heard of this guy. I haven't. Chris Lindstrom. Apologies. Everybody out there has heard of Chris Lindstrom. I apologize. But Ray, Chris Lindstrom just got $100 million from Atlanta. He's a guard. That is the most a guard has ever received in the NFL. A running back can't even get that money anymore, right? But Chris Lindstrom can.
According to what I'm seeing here, like Lindsey Rhodes tweeted out, that's $5 million more than any guard ever on an average action value. $63 million guaranteed. Hey man, the Falcons, they're playing some kind of football that I'm not sure of, and we've talked about this. We were joking right before the show started with signing other players, and we'll get into it, like you said. But they have a plan. I just don't know if it's the plan that any of us were expecting.
Yeah, NFC South is becoming ground zero for some early action. We got Atlanta making moves. They just traded for Jonnu Smith. It's a head scratcher. Carolina trades for the number 1 pick. Derek Carr's to New Orleans. And maybe the Tampa Bay Bucks will get Baker Mayfield, which, Ray, even you would admit Baker Mayfield's an upgrade over Kyle Trask, right? That's an improvement.
I think that, well, yeah, I think
we don't know.
I think it is. They definitely have to do something. They need a veteran presence, and Mayfield would certainly fit the bill based upon short-term turnaround. They're looking to build for the future, that kind of thing.
Mondays don't get much busier than they are today. Ray and I, with a load to get to over the 3 hours, we'll throw in some college hoops. I know the whole world is talking about March Madness and starting to fill out those brackets. So we'll help you on that front. I want to thank our producers, Heather Klein, Josh Winchester. Great to have them on board. I want to thank everybody in the chat room. It is already up and rolling. Ray, we've got Working Grind saying it's perfect that you only rest for 15 minutes because that does not allow your body to enter REM mode. And that's why once it hits REM mode, that's the grogginess. So Working Grind, sleep expert, says you're right on with about 15 minutes. When I have them, Ray, which is about once a week, I do kick it into the 30, 35 minute range. I like it.
Yeah, it's interesting. If I always try to keep my phone on in case there's an emergency, and damned if I don't get 12 minutes into my 20 where that phone doesn't go. It's so frustrating. And it doesn't matter if I try to sneak one in early, late, middle of the day. It always goes. But I didn't know the science behind the REM sleep and trying to avoid it and all that. But I do know that my mom used to always tell stories. We'd go to the grocery store. I'd fall asleep in 5 minutes going home. We get home and I was a wide awake terror. So it's been something my entire life. That just I can pretty much wake up after 20 minutes. I don't even set an alarm. I pretty much wake up after 20 minutes. So I guess my body just does it right, Kyle.
Yeah, I didn't do it well Saturday night and into Sunday night. That hour threw me off. I didn't get good sleep. Last night I was tossing and turning. I mean, it got so bad is that I listened to the latter innings of the US-Mexico game. Like, even though the US was getting embarrassed, I still had it on listening to it.
Yeah.
So. Oh well, hey, you got to support your buddies, right? You got to support the Americans in the World Baseball Classic. Let us begin with our lunch menu. That's how we always start things around these parts, where we go app, main dish, side dish, bet du jour, dessert, drink of the day, all that good stuff. Ready to start us off? What are you feeling today as your app? The one thing that you've just been gnawing at the bit to get to. What's on your mind this morning?
Probably not what people were expecting, to be honest. But I was, looking at things this weekend. We've talked about this a little bit. For those people that missed the story, in Canada, the Toronto Blue Jays are moving the fences in, not because they think the park is too big or they're trying to increase offense. They're trying to increase seats. They're basically creating party zones, if you will, in the outfield. And I found this really interesting. I got, the plan information, maybe it had been out, but this is the first time I saw it. They're going to sell $20 general admission tickets. Okay, so I don't know if people have seen this. All your life, you buy a ticket for box 5 or upper deck seat 26, row G, whatever it is. No, you buy $20 general admission tickets. What could possibly go wrong with people sitting in seats that aren't theirs? $20 general admission tickets. And what does that entitle you to? Like 127 different places you can go in the ballpark. They've got the Corona rooftop patio, the Park Social, the Stop, the Catch, the WestJet flight deck, Schneider's porch, Rogers Landing, the bleachers seating, left and right field balconies, and the drink rails, which is where Phil Backert, our old producer, probably would be. So they basically have created, and maybe I'm wrong with this, Kyle. You have to told me, okay? But I think that this is the first time a major league team has had full-on general admission tickets. I don't know.
Not the first time. I would say, Ray, it used to be, I don't know this because at the old Busch Stadium, the bleachers were always GA. I remember at Wrigley, the bleachers were GA. They aren't anymore. Now there's assigned seating and everything. But years ago, it was wide open, first come, first serve, I know, in bleachers.
Mm-hmm.
But this idea of, in effect, Ray, they've kind of turned, this is all beyond the wall, right? This is all like kind of congregation area.
Right.
Which we see that in ballparks, and you'll see them like up top in right field. I know in San Francisco, you guys have one in dead center.
Mm-hmm.
But usually you buy your ticket to that spot.
Right.
And you're locked in. This is a theme park
Exactly.
spots, it sounds like.
Yep.
They only stopped, Ray, because they ran out of names that connected to the world of baseball. I mean, that's like, what, 10, 12 different spots you can hang out in?
They have 5 neighborhoods in the outfield. And this is the
Neighborhood.
terminology, neighborhoods. They've got 5 social spaces. I mean, think of this. The park social is food truck style bites of food,
Okay.
right? The stop is where you can grab a quick bite to eat with your friends. The catch is a place to be seen. It's where you can grab a cocktail.
Oh, a place to be seen.
Place to be
Yeah.
seen. A place above the visitor's bullpen. The flight deck is a place that we know and love. It's a retro arcade game brewery style menu. The rooftop patio is the patio oasis. Extra sunshine into the ballpark, nestled in Toronto's iconic skyline. They've got a
as
whole thing
long as
going.
the dome's open.
Yeah, you're right. Otherwise, you're staring at the roof. But I just found it really fascinating because, like you said, you were right about the bleachers. I should have. But this is like the theme park analogy is perfect. This is an experience now. This is you go to the game and you don't have, I don't even know if these areas actually have seats. Maybe there's a few in the corner kind of thing, but it's not like there really are seats here, right? This is just they're open spaces. And all ballparks have the new park in San Francisco, like you said, they've got spaces, sure. But it's not, it's like behind the seats. It's not in front where you're watching the game. So I wonder how this is going to go. It'll probably be a huge hit with the 20, maybe 30 crowd, I guess. Yeah. But I found it interesting that I don't know if this is a move that they're being smart, if this is a move suggesting that we can't actually sell tickets anymore to people. I don't know where we fall in here, but it's a fascinating experiment because it's not just, hey, float around and have fun. It's not the knothole gang looking through a hole in the fence. This is 10 different spaces for people just to float around, and the game is kind of secondary, it seems.
I like it. And Ray, am I going to go there? Probably. Like if I had season tickets to Toronto, or let's say I went to 10 games a year, probably 1 or 2, I'd do it this way. I'll have my regular seats for a majority of the games, but it'd be fun to experience this. To your point, you don't really ever have to turn around and watch the game. You don't. Like you can literally, and to a lot of people, like what they're trying to get, Ray, like you said, the 20, 30-year-old, we know this. They're not really baseball fans, okay? They aren't. I love the price point. I'm guessing it's like 20 Canadian. Like that's a really dirt cheap way to, in effect, go to a mall. Right? You're just going to a mall with all these different setups. The place to be seen. It's only a matter of time before that quarterback in Green Bay gets a season pass to that place to be seen. He's going to love that spot. You may get him to come up to Toronto. I remember maybe 2-3 months ago, Cleveland announced they're going to do a refurbishment and update of Progressive Field there in Cleveland. And Ray, most of the places that they showed, I remember watching, they had a really cool, computer generated graphic and fly you around the stadium to see things. And it was all like wiping out existing seating and creating open terraces and like lounge areas. They were like couches. It's like the ballpark has become the place to close a deal.
Right. Yeah.
And again, I don't have a problem with it, Ray. It's not like I still can't go to the game and get a seat.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
These people aren't going to bother me out in center field. The more, the merrier, I guess I would say. I think, for all the criticism baseball gets, this is something they have to do. Make it. And this is something, honestly, Ray, the other sports really can't.
Yeah.
You can't really do this in hockey. It's only 18,000 people, and most of the buildings are sold out. Same thing with the NBA. I mean, Ray, you and I, it's probably been 8 years ago or so. We were in Dallas for one of the FSGA, and I remember that they had a meet and greet or something. The last night was a big throwdown at the American Airlines Center or whatever. And like the Mavericks were, I don't know, playing the T-Wolves or something. And Ray, I remember this distinctly. I show up. I like basketball too. I'd never been to that stadium, and decent teams, all this stuff. Show up, and we have a pregame buffet and drinks and all that, and all of our buddies are there, and we were standing around. Ray's there, and I'm hanging out with, and Ray, literally, I never left the room to go watch the game. Right? Remember that? We left like early in the fourth quarter. And that was the only time I saw the court. That was when we were leaving. I even pulled away from you guys. I can't come down here and not see the. So I walked and saw the court. but that was like hidden off the court. It was back in a room with no windows, only TVs. So they can't really do it at the NBA, but at baseball, you can do this stuff. You can open entire sections beyond the wall. This is something that baseball has an advantage on, I think, versus the other big sports.
Yeah, it's not my bag. Okay. But to your point, they're not making the whole stadium this way. I can still go get my seat and sit down and watch the game. I think it's great. I think it is a differentiator because, like you're saying, none of the other sports can offer this because of size constrictions or because of the games themselves. I know a lot of people go to sporting events and they like the sporting event and it's important and all that, but, it's tangential. Yeah. They're on a date. They're talking business. They're with their family. Like, it's an event. I get it. I think it's weird a little that it's like, this is clearly, let's go. Like, there's no hiding behind this anymore. This is, you're just here to have fun.
Yeah, this isn't come see Vlad Guerrero and Bo Bichette.
This is like,
come here and have fun with your buddies.
Oh, there goes a home run. Oh, okay, cool. Anyway, talk to me about that merger. I mean, it's like, but again, I think you're right. It's the thing that baseball can offer because of the style of the game and the way that others can't. So why not? I mean, baseball gets smashed all the time, and I'm starting to see it, or feeling, I don't know if this is accurate, starting to feel a little bit of an acceptance of the new rules, like the clock now, I think, as we talked about here on the show, like, give it a little time. I'm starting to hear people say this is not so bad. The game's moving. This is good. Now you see baseball doing something like this. If it's successful, and it probably will be, we'll see other stadiums, other places like you're talking about, Cleveland doing it too. So it is something new and different, and it's changing with the times. And this is what I have said all along, baseball needs to do. They need to get out of 1970, because that's not the world anymore, and push things forward. So I'm at least glad that they're trying new and inventive things. So I wish people would go to the game to watch the game, but still, if you're going to the game and having fun, that's the name of the game.
This pitch clock thing, Ray, I've not watched a single spring training game from pitch one to the final pitch of the game. I haven't. So I have not sat there for a single game and watched it for 9 innings. I have sat and watched a dozen games for like 3 or 4 innings, just have it on in the background, kind of watching it as I have lunch, dinner, whatever it may be. And watching that, Ray, we've talked about this. I'm a little anxious with the clock. Like, I've got to train myself. I'm always looking at this clock. And you're thinking, oh, counting down. Oh, he's got, so you got to break that. But, Ray, then I started watching the WBC this week, and they don't have the clock. Slog.
Yep. So different.
Slog. It took me 2 weeks of watching spring training, and it's like, that's what I want. The WBC. They're not, none of the rules, for those who haven't seen it, none of the new rules that baseball has are going into this WBC. It's, they can shift all they want. They can throw to first all they want. And Ray, it's a slog. So I welcome it. We'll see how it goes for the season. I know, games in spring training are like 30 minutes shorter right now. Stolen base attempts are up. So it's 2 weeks in. So you're not going to make any drastic things, and it's not in season. So we'll see how it goes. But I think baseball, hey, something new, something fresh, $20 to get in, sign me up. That's a good price point for everybody. I think Work and Grind nailed it. It's the poor man's suite. That's what it is. Go play Pac-Man if you get bored by the game.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
I wonder if in Canada, the popular video games of the States, I wonder if they're popular in Canada. Or if they have like a different, like total offshoot of video games.
Kyle, I think video games are worldwide, aren't they? I mean, come on. I don't think the Pac-Man here is different than the Pac-Man in Japan. I think it's still Pac-Man.
Well, there's the whole metric system, right? I don't know if Pac-Man is eating balls that are 3 meters apart or 3 feet apart.
That's a good point. That's
I don't know.
Different space.
The boards are set up differently because of the whole metric conversion. I don't know how it works. Never played a video game in Canada. I'm not going to jump to an assumption here.
Okay. Fair point.
Okay, my app today, NCAA tournament. Bracket was released last night. Ray conveniently probably set up his 15-minute nap during the release of the bracket. But by the way, people, if you don't know, Ray, this Final Four thing, March Madness, this is not really Ray's dance, so understand that. But we are going to talk about it this week, and I know a lot of people are filling out brackets. I will point out just a couple of quick bits of information, and this is correct. I think Seth Davis, who I really enjoy. Seth on TV, he does CBS Sports and all that. Fine by me, whatever. I enjoy his writing. His writing is extremely smooth. Like there are some people that, they're tough to read, others that, and even well-known guys can be like Seth Davis writes very concise and well-written and all that. I enjoy his stuff. He's over at The Athletic. He's been with Sports Illustrated, all these places. He's covering college basketball for years and years and years. And Ray, every year, he kind of breaks down, okay, bracket stuff, this and that, and how do you fill it out? And everybody wants to pick upsets. That's what everybody wants to do. What are the odds of those upsets happening? Well, in this day and time, we all know, hey, the 5-12 game, the 12-5 game, that's where the upsets occur. If you crunch the numbers, last 20 years, you are looking at 36% of the 12 seeds win. 21% of the 13 seeds win. In effect, for those who are really serious about filling out their brackets, even if you don't know anything about college basketball, you're probably taking a max of 2 12 seeds winning and maybe a max of 113. So what are those games? Well, I will give you my take real quickly. Drake over Miami, that's a 12-5. I'll take that one. The other 12-5, and it's kind of tough, but I think Charleston over San Diego State would be my other. No one is going to pick Oral Roberts over Duke. But I remind everybody, if you watched a lot of college basketball last week, whenever we asked the question, I saw it many times on air, who's the mid-major that could be a Cinderella? Who's the dangerous team? Oral Roberts was always at that top, 1, 2, third name mentioned. Problem is they got Duke in the first round. So remember, last week, everybody's like, Oral Roberts going to be dangerous. But when you go up against Duke, everybody just says, Duke, you're Duke. Yeah, you're going to win. You won the ACC tournament. You're going to win. You're going to win. So I'm not going to pick that game. But for those who think of differentials, like how can I be different? Right there. Because people ain't picking Oral Roberts anymore. But they're not in a bad spot. Quickly on the 13s and the 4s, everyone, I've noticed this within like 12 hours just of the write-ups. Everybody's taken Furman over Virginia. Furman, it's everywhere. Furman over Virginia. So that's going to be popular. Iona UConn is Rick Pitino. He coaches Iona now. So that might be of interest. Not seeing Kent State, Indiana, Louisiana, Tennessee, maybe. I mean, Tennessee lost their guard. I don't love any of the 13-4s, but I do like some of those 12-5s. Also, in the last decade, for those who are thinking, I'm going to pick a 15 to beat a 2. That has happened 6 times in the last decade. Of course, we saw the 16-1 a few years ago with Virginia getting knocked off. And then finally, as you fill out this bracket, I'm just giving you, and again, all these numbers courtesy of CBS and Seth Davis. 41% of the 1 seeds make it to the Final Four. 22% of the 2 seeds make it to the Final Four. And then 18% of the Final Four participants over the last decade are 5 or lower. So quite simply, the chalk option for your bracket, the smart chalk, would be you have 2 number 1s make it to the Final Four. You have 1 number 2, and then you find a seed, maybe 5 or lower. So lay it out. Ray, you can now fill out your bracket. You don't have to know anything. You just need to know what I told you.
That's some pretty good. I mean, it's a pretty good information. I always, because we get into this zone, it's the same thing when we talk about like playoff football. It's like, what does history tell us? Okay, how do we impact our decisions now with that history, right? It's like 22% this, 41% this. Yeah, but what I'm saying, how does that impact this year directly?
How does it impact different talent, different matchup? I can believe it. Even Ray, you could say 10 years ago the game was different. You know, not huge, but different.
Sure. I mean, it's great information, and I think it's a baseline. I hope people do a little bit more digging. No offense to your data, do a little bit more digging before they place bets. But it's an interesting, almost conundrum, right? Because it's like if history's telling you yes, and you're looking at the data today, and you're like, no, it's like, where's the midpoint?
Well, and a couple of other things. People usually just pick too many upsets.
Yeah.
Like, and I've never done this in an official contest. But I always feel like just pick favorites the whole way through. And you might end up, obviously there are years where upsets happen like crazy. But, 75% of the higher seeds should win in the first round. That'll be pretty good for most out there. So don't go overboard with the upsets. And the other thing, if you do want to pick an upset, because the way the scoring works in all these bracket contests is, let's say there's an upset in round one and you just lost a team that you had in the Final Four. Well, you're probably cooked. You not to say you are, but if you're losing a Final Four team or an Elite Eight team that early in the process, you're probably done. That's what's going to happen. So instead, if you want to pick upsets, choose upsets of teams that you can't really find a way to get them into the Sweet 16. So if there's like a 3 or 4 seed that you don't like, it's these guys are overrated, or they got an injury, or a matchup sucks. It's maybe fine to pick them to lose, because even if they lose later, it's not going to kill you. So when you choose those upsets, don't choose upsets of teams that you say, wow, that's been a top 8 team all year. That's been a top 5 team all year. You don't want to do it with those teams. But teams that have injuries, I'll tell you this, there are a lot of teams. I was going through like the capsules. There are teams everywhere that have had some critical injuries. UCLA, Tennessee, they're all over the place. So pay attention to those as well. We've got a lot more coming up on the Big Dance. Coming up here in about an hour, so a little less than an hour. We're going to be joined by Jason Lisk. He is with TeamRankings.com. Jason is somebody who follows the brackets and all the teams and all of that. He has been going through everything that he likes, what he doesn't like. He's going to join us here in about an hour, so that'll be our main course as we get you set for the week to come. Reminder, the first 4 games are tomorrow night and Wednesday night. They play those in Dayton, Ohio. And Ray, a reminder to you, tomorrow evening, first game, my hometown college basketball team has made it into the Big Dance. The Southeast Missouri State Redhawks of Cape Girardeau, Missouri, have made their second ever NCAA tournament. Their first one was, I think, in 2003, maybe even 2000. It might have been way back. Been like 20 years. But Ray, they're back in the tournament. They're a 16 seed. But the beauty of the play-in is they get to play another 16 seed. So make sure you tune in for the Red Hawks, who I don't think are really all that good,
right?
But they still made the tournament.
Well, my alma mater, USF, 55-56, go Casey Jones and Bill Russell winning national titles. That's all I know. Like, I don't know if the teams they've made the dance.
Yeah, they didn't make it this year.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know if it's happened since. But that's pretty. But that's USF. Right, that's University of San Francisco. That's a big. Your hometown is not a million people, right?
No, it's probably 45,000, maybe.
So that's
40,
pretty
000.
impressive, Kyle. Tip of that.
Yeah, they're back in it. All that had to happen. They're in the Ohio Valley Conference. They won the conference tournament. They got the automatic bid, but they had to get rid of Murray State and Belmont, 2 teams that have kind of like dominated that conference. They left this year, so. They went to the Missouri Valley Conference, so SEMO had a way into that tournament. So anyway, congrats to them. And they will be the first game. They will tip things off, and we will get you a preview tonight. We got a lot more coming up on the tournament throughout the week. In terms of side dishes, holy moly. This week's position, shortstop. This week's division, the NL Central. Football is getting pretty fast and furious right now. In fact, Ray, we're sitting here talking, and big news on a big name. Austin Eckler is now in the news, it turns out.
Yeah, and this is really interesting. We love Austin Eckler. He's a spectacular fantasy player. Almost 40 touchdowns the last 2 years. He loves fantasy football, talks about it all the time. We're all Team Eckler, right? Eckler no longer is Team Chargers, it appears. He wants out. Now, this is fascinating. Adam Schefter's reporting that he has requested a trade. Fascinating because I wonder, Eckler's a smart guy, okay? And I say that because their offensive coordinator is now gone, Joe Lombardi. What does Joe Lombardi like to do? Dump off, dump off, dump off, dump off. What's the new OC going to do? Stretch the field. What do we all hear? We got to use Herbert. We got to use his arm. We got to stretch the field. Austin Eckler, I'm going to go from 99 catches down to 71. How's that going to help you?
Pissed off at me, yeah.
Yeah, how's that going to help my free agency? So I wonder if there's some of that, right? To be fair, I've seen a lot of get Eckler, get Eckler. Eckler is 4'3", okay, and he's aging, right? I'm not saying he can't go to another team and catch 75, 80 passes. If they want to run their offense that way, he can be the same guy for another team that he was with the Chargers. But understand, he's not really a running back.
Yeah.
He's not a guy who's carrying the ball 15 times a week with effectiveness. He's not a goal line back. He's not a big back. He's an aging back who, though he's caught a lot of passes, has touched the ball an awful lot, and he's had injuries in his background. So this is, a team needs to be willing to run a certain style of offense for him to even really be part of their offense. Like just a random team can't add him and have it work. So this will be fascinating to see how it goes because there's a lot of moving pieces with this one, Kyle.
Right, and it's very easy to say the last 2 years the best running back in football is Austin Eckler. Certainly for fantasy football.
For fantasy, for sure.
Yeah. But you could even, you can make that. He's in the conversation in the NFL. I think it's very fair. He doesn't like how the early contract renegotiations, extension talks are going. I hate to break it to him, Ray, but it ain't going to go better other places. It isn't. These guys make $10 million under the franchise tag. Almost every team considers them replaceable. They do. He may get traded or go to a more friendly offensive style, but I'd be stunned if he gets some kind of outlandishly great contract or something. He thinks, I'm the best running back in football. Pay me what that guard in Atlanta is getting paid. Whoever that guy is. Like you draw the comparison there, Ray. We get, and again, Chris Lindstrom, I apologize. Maybe he's the greatest guard the NFL's never seen. I've never seen. He's making $21 million a year. Okay. Right. I guess he's important, and you can't have Desmond Ridder succeed without this guy as your guard. But Ray, there is nobody in the NFL going to give Austin Eckler $21 million a year.
Of course not. Yeah.
Nobody. I don't even know if there's anybody who'll give him $15 million a year, right? It's and then you got this thing of like, dude, you're with Justin Herbert, and you're like, get me out of here. You're right. He probably sees some of the writing on the wall, and I say all the time with running backs, if you can go out and get it, get it. Because you know what? They're going to throw you in the trash in 2 years.
Yep.
So get what you can right now. So there is part of that with Eckler, but I don't know how much more he's getting, Ray, if he ends up somewhere else. I just struggle to see teams that are like so flush with cash that they'll trade for Eckler, and let's say that's a second round pick or something. I don't know what it'll cost. But then, we'll give you $14 million in a 5-year contract. That's not going to happen in the NFL nowadays.
Yeah, the real problem is, the problem for the running back is the league has figured out that they're all kind of the same. And people argue all the time, they're all kind of the same. The plus or minus is 10%. They're all kind of the same, and they're not going to pay for it. Now, think about this. Austin Eckler has 38 touchdowns the last 2 years. 38 touchdowns. There are players, I don't even know the answer to this. 95% of the running backs in the Hall of Fame didn't score 38 touchdowns in 2 years. 99%, no one does that. And he's catching 100 passes, and doesn't matter. He's an undersized guy who's been in the league for 6 years. He's had injuries in the past. I know he played all the games last year. Good for him, but he's had injuries in the past. He's not a pile pusher, right? And he's making $6.25 million this year, which is a lot of money.
He's underpaid. Absolutely.
It's a lot of money, but and like you said, the real problem these guys run into is the way the system is set up, if we're being honest about this. Because, we're seeing this a little bit with Lamar Jackson, I think, too. Everyone would love to trade for Austin Eckler and put him on their team. Like, I bet half the league would take him, right? And make the trade and give the second round pick or whatever, right? But then now we have to sign him to some 4-year, $59 million extension. They're not doing that. They're not. So that's the problem. The players, the running backs are screwed. It's just, they're screwed. And it's unfortunate. It sucks. And it's not really reflective of their success on the field, but it's reflective of how teams view them. We'll just plug a guy in. So like I said, this will be fascinating because Eckler has no leverage. There's nothing he can do. He can hold out. Okay, that's not going to do him any good. So it's one of those scenarios where this, he's got to hope that someone bites and then that someone's willing to give him a contract extension to his liking.
Yeah, it's a whirlwind of news in the NFL with trades and free agency, drafts. You have the big move by Carolina to move up to number 1. We'll break it all down coming up later in the show. Of course, we've got our lunch hunch, our random reference. That's all coming your way over the course of our 3 hours. Moving to our bet du jour. Going to try to have pretty well every bet and every lunch hunch this week be tournament style. things for your NCAA tournament. So let's begin with this. South Region. This is Friday, 1:30 in the afternoon. Number 3 Baylor is up against these guys. UC Santa Barbara. The Gauchos. Don't you love that emblem, Ray? That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good looking emblem. UC Santa Barbara is the 14 seed. They actually won, or they tied for first in the Big West Conference. They then went into the tournament and won it. They're a 9.5 point dog. Now they can play offense. Baylor can play offense. Neither team really plays defense. So you might be more comfortable with like the over on the game total. I am comfortable with UC Santa Barbara as a 9.5 point dog. Baylor is very weak on defense. Really, the guy, it comes down to like this freshman Keontae George, who's kind of like a lottery pick for Baylor. He's been up and down throughout the year. When he's good, he's great. When he's not, he disappears. Baylor struggles. And UC Santa Barbara, loads of experience. They're like the 7th or 8th most experienced team in all the NCAA. So I'll go with experience. They can shoot. Baylor can shoot. I'm not predicting an upset, but my bet du jour, it's -110 for the Gauchos. Those sinister-looking UCSB Gauchos to cover the 9.5, or to finish within 9.5 of Baylor. Dessert, Attack of the Seaweed. We'll tell you what that's about. And finally, our drink of the day. Ray Flowers, both you and I had a relaxing weekend. I don't know if we got to jump into the tin can or aluminum can industry too much. Ray's, I think, still getting his feet back under him from a bit of a sickness. But what do you have today as your drink of the day?
Yeah, before we were ruined last week, my ability to share my bottle of wine from my great event in Napa, where I did get the vomitosis, I think.
Vomitosis? Is that a thing?
That's the official, non-official terminology in the Flowers household. So you said, Ray, you blew it. And I did last week by not sharing one of the wines we got when we went to Napa. My gal got us VIP access. We went and looked and toured where they make the wine the whole time. So we went to, this is when you get a bottle of wine, this when you're so fancy, they put it in a bag, Kyle.
Oh yeah. Very nice.
Farniente bag, right? So this is one of the bottles that we bought when we did it. So we did a private tour. They took us around. They showed us the wine. We had the sommelier there give us the whole thing. Farniente.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And they actually do mostly Chardonnay, but this is obviously one of the reds. This is a cab, so everyone can read there. It's from the Cave collection, denoted by the black band here. It's from 2015, this bottle. The Cave collection is they pull aside a certain amount every year, and then they keep them in storage. And you have to be a member of to actually buy, So this, anyway, we tried this as part of our tasting. 2015 cab, really nice. Thank you to my partner. I said, "Oh, that's pretty good." So she said, "We'll take one of those bottles." So thank you to her.
I like it.
I didn't say it that to get a bottle, but
2 days later, Ray's puking his brains.
Yeah, right. I didn't drink any of the wine, so it wasn't that. But yeah, so there it is. It's it's got an old school label and everything. It's really cool. It's right there in Napa, and one of the beautiful views and everything like that. So we had a really nice day, and there's one of the bottles of wine we got.
I have been. Sonoma? I think I've been more to Sonoma, not Napa.
Okay.
Napa's kind of a place to be, though, right, Ray? If you got to for people who are heading out to Northern California, are they drastically different than Napa versus Sonoma kind of stuff? Like, what would you recommend?
I would say, and again, I am not a wine snob, but I would say that if you are a wine snob, you go to Napa, and if you're not, you go to Sonoma. Like Napa's the more the place for the cachet.
Yeah.
That's Napa Valley. Ooh, that's where the French Laundry is and everything. So restaurant, not a place that cleans clothes. So I think people would say Napa. Napa's bigger. It's broader.
How far? Like Sonoma's not too far from what I recall.
No, they're not too far. They're both north, so they're not too far. Like if you go to Napa from our house, we live from San Francisco. It's probably an hour and 15 minutes to Napa. Okay. It's they're both convenient. They're day trips, right? You can go out there and do your thing and go back. But beautiful area too. And the sun came out when we were there. It was rainy in the morning. Sun came out when we were there, so it was nice.
Yeah, those things. Having not grown up around that world, they're quite fun for a day. Even if you're not into wine, I think they're kind of fun. just to hear about the growth and how things work and how the facilities start up, the vineyards and all of that. Just it's beautiful land out there.
We did. This wasn't on this trip, and it actually wasn't with this girlfriend. Sorry, sweetie. With my old girlfriend, we did a balloon trip, which is spectacular. I'd never been in a hot air balloon. I'm a little afraid of heights. I said, what the hell, let's do it. And so you go over the entire valley in the balloons. That is something. If you haven't had a chance to do that, I would recommend doing something like that. It's fantastic.
And a word to the wise to Ray's current girlfriend. You might want to think about doing that because Ray really enjoyed it.
Don't just give me a bottle. I need a trip in the air.
Well, hey, you got a birthday coming up. So
that's true.
Yeah. Really coming up. What are you, 2.5 weeks?
Yeah, 2.5 weeks, and I'll be half a century old. Yeah.
Woo! We're going to have a party then. So that's April 1st, right?
Correct.
We should let everybody know. That's a weekend, though, isn't it?
April 1st. What day is it? Yeah, it's a Saturday.
Yeah, it's a Saturday. So we're going to have to party on the Friday before.
Okay.
You're going to have your drinking shoes back and cleaned up by March 31st?
Definitely. I'm trying. I'm aiming for Friday for St. Patrick's Day, but I'll definitely be okay for my birthday.
Okay. Well, we'll have to have a celebratory drink here on air, I think, on the 31st.
Okay, appreciate it.
My drink of the day, and I've had this brewery on before. I have not had this beer on before. This is Great Divide, the hazy IPA. You might recall the Great Divide. They had the Colette beer, the farmhouse ale.
Yep. This
is strictly an IPA. Good, nothing incredible. I got this as a one-off.
Okay.
It was tasty. I have noticed, I kind of fall in love with certain brewers.
Okay.
And these guys I probably had, they're not local or anything. They're out of Colorado. Probably had 4 or 5 of their different beers, and all of them are solid. So a fan of this one. Not something you've got to seek out or get a 12-pack, but it's good. Plus, you always get the Roadrunner look.
And the background matches your shirt today. You're color coordinated. Look at that.
Wow, yeah. It's like, I'm like a weatherman. It faded into my shirt.
The green screen.
Good call. Yeah, and here I thought today I would be the only one with baby blue.
Yeah.
No, it brings out my eye color. That's
there
why I chose baby blue. That is our drink of the day, and that is our lunch menu for the day. Little shorter than usual because we have just that much stuff to get to. When Ray and I come back, thoughts on the WBC. I was tempted to go with this as my app, but instead I'm going to save it to wonder what in the hell's going on. I just had so I got a thought on WBC. We'll update you on anything that matters. Baseball news. Also, we're going to dig into shortstops this week. It is a loaded position. A lot of guys to talk about all week long here on the show. Ray and I will break down that position. After we get to the end of the week, we'll be done with the infield. So we'll move to the outfield next week, all leading you up to the start of the baseball season, which is just 17 days away, coming up on March 30th. Baseball, basketball, football, and who knows what else. All coming your way on Lunch Money. Back with more after this on the Bettor Sports Network.
Moose and Keith. Weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern.
The word genius is there. Bob Glover, it describes him. Bob, so when's the last time that Twitter defeated you? Because I've been defeated by Twitter today.
I'll tell you how Twitter defeated me one time. I had the mistaken impression that the year that Troy Polamalu won the Defensive Player of the Year, it looked like it was going to go to Clay Matthews Jr., and I tweeted it. And there was a guy on the media bus. He was like, oh, yeah, he's got it, a guy I trust. I won't tell you who it was, but his initials are Mike Garafalo. So I went with it. Got a DM from Rich Eisen, NFL Network. He goes, you sure about that? I go, oh, man. Oh, I just got this wave because accuracy to me is really important. So I'm literally on the media bus. We're just getting back from media day. We are slipping and sliding in Dallas. It's snowing. I get off the bus. I open my laptop. I am hunched over, and I just literally people are passing me. Bob, what's wrong? And it was Polamalu, and Adam Schefter had retweeted me. Trey Wingo had retweeted me. I'm like, I'm dead.
So when it's Polamalu, then how do you handle that? What was the subsequent tweet
I think
afterward?
I said, got some bad Twitter info. I didn't put Garafalo's name on there. I had to
10 years later, you can out him. I like that. Yeah.
He wouldn't mind that. He knows the stories.
Yeah.
He actually said to me, hey, Bob, I think you might have jumped the gun on that. I was like, oh, crap. There we go.
Campus to Canton on the Bettor Sports Network.
Would Dion bench Shedeur?
I don't think he would.
Like, how bad would it have to be? Because we've seen horrendous quarterback play from this Colorado team for the last, 4 years, 5 years? JT Shroud, Brandon Lewis, just terrible quarterback play. Like, they were 131st, which is dead last in pass EPA per play. Obviously, it will be better, but how bad does it have to be for him to bench his own son? Like, I'm not sure he will ever either, like, especially with the attitude that he came in with.
If they don't get Rashada, who do they bench him for this year anyway? I don't know that there's another answer on that roster that you go to. They don't really have a guy behind him. So I don't even know if we would know the answer to that until the next year, assuming that, he doesn't declare for the draft, he returns, they bring somebody else that's competent and behind him.
If they're going to do this the Lincoln Riley way, next year would be the class to bring somebody in. Shedeur Sanders is going to be a third-year player. So he's going to play 2023. I don't think he's declaring for the 2024 NFL draft. So he's going to play in 2024 and then declare for the 2025 NFL draft. And let's remember this. He hasn't had a full recruiting cycle at Colorado. He will have that next recruiting cycle. So maybe he could get one of these class of 2024 quarterbacks there to come to Colorado.
However you're invested in sports, from betting to fantasy, collectibles, and more, join our community on Bettor Sports Network.
Now back to Lunch Money, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Here's Kyle and Ray.
Yes, indeed. We are back on a Monday, starting up a brand new week of fun right here on the Bettor Sports Network. And we've got more ways for you to win on the Bettor Sports Network that we're going to be telling you about, including this one. Tonight, our Bettor cast is WBC style. This is the one Ray's been rating for. Israel versus Puerto Rico at 7 o'clock tonight. Team Israel, Team PR, taking on each other, 7 o'clock, and we will have a special Bettor cast for you. What is the Bettor cast? Well, we do this every night here at the Bettor Sports Network. You fire up the app, and we have a little trivia Q&A about whatever event we're covering. Last night was the Oscars, by the way. Tonight, WBC. So have some fun there. You can only do that in the app. You can win prizes, money to the Bettor Sports memorabilia shop. So have some fun with it. We do basketball. I know we're going to do a ton of NCAA stuff. We'll do baseball, but pretty well every night. We're firing up things on the app and inviting you to join us. You watch the event and you comment on the event. You answer questions about the event, trivia, Q&A, make predictions, all that stuff. And tonight it's WBC. Ray, last night in the WBC, Team USA got smoked. Didn't look good. 11-5. Now they won Saturday against Great Britain 6-2. They have Canada tonight. Can I just say, Ray, this is what I had to get off my chest.
Okay.
Hey, we are told this is like a big deal and it's cool and it matters and everything, and the stars, and oh wow, they put this on Fox and like you watch it on. And on the surface, I get that. Okay, I get what baseball's trying to do here. And this kind of goes back to what you said in the app with, let's open this up to more people and create events, all that stuff. But Ray, don't tell me in one breath that this thing matters. And then in the next breath, you have Mark DeRosa as your manager? What? He's never managed ever anywhere. Now, I sat here in November moaning about Jeff Saturday with the Colts. Everybody mocked that. And let me say, Mark DeRosa, I really enjoy him on MLB Network. I think he does an excellent job. This is nothing against the analyst Mark DeRosa. I think he's one of the better ex-players that we've got that breaks down a game. But, Ray, it makes no sense to me why he is managing this event. He literally, Ray, has never managed a game, and we're just going to throw him in, and now we're making decisions with Mike Trout and Paul Goldschmidt. What? How did he get this job? There's got to be somebody else besides a dude who's never managed a game. And then the pitching coach is Andy Pettitte. Ray, I don't think Andy Pettitte's ever been a coach anywhere. What are we doing? If this matters, shouldn't we get guys who've actually made decisions before?
I saw Andy Pettitte in the dugout because I was watching it last night too. I saw Andy Pettitte in the dugout and I was like, disgraced former major leaguer Andy Pettitte? It's so interesting. Can't get in the Hall of Fame, disgrace, cheater, all this kind of stuff, but coach our team? Again, I'm not making value judgments. I'm just telling you, this is an odd combination. Yeah. Get a manager from AA that has been managing for 18
Exactly.
years, right?
Ray, that's it. Because then I started thinking, well, like, who
Yeah.
would you manage? Because that's the question. Well, who would you choose, Kyle? A, somebody with experience. And Ray, there are so many great AAA coaches, lifers in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
I know there are things they are doing right now, like we're having players reassigned to minor league camps and stuff, but their season doesn't start for send them there instead of sending a TV personality. Again, that's what Mark DeRosa is now. He's a TV personality, and he's managing this very, like, Ray, if the U.S., let's say they lose tonight to Canada, and like this unforeseen occurrence where they don't get out of pool play. Now, the thing is pretty well rigged to where even if you suck, you get out of pool play. But Ray, if they really fall flat, what? Why? Well, maybe because you have this guy who literally has never managed a baseball game is the guy you chose to win this big international event. It's crazy to me.
It also makes you wonder, is he actually managing the game? Like, I mean, I don't. It's weird. Like, you got the dream team. They didn't pick some high school coach. The dream team didn't pick a retired player, right? Was it John Daly? Was that right?
No, Chuck Daly.
Chuck Daly. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, so it's not about how great the collection of players are. You still need a manager. I mean, and there is something to it. And I know that it's an event and it's a short thing and blah, blah, and the guys know how to hit a fastball. I'm not, but there's an art to being a manager of a professional team.
When to make pitching changes, when to pinch hit, when to steal a base, when to hit and run. These are not player calls.
Yeah.
These are managerial calls. And I'm sure I haven't looked at the whole coaching staff. So, I just saw this last night and it kind of hit me smack in the face. It's like, what? It doesn't make any sense to me that you want to tell me it's a big event. Mark DeRosa, a guy who's never, ever been managing is your guy. It's like,
I'm pulling this up.
I mean,
right
to compare
now.
and contrast it, in 2017, they had Jim Leyland, who managed for like 50 years.
Yeah, until he was dying. They would smoke a cigarette.
Yeah.
Bench coach is Jerry Manuel. Hitting coach is Ken Griffey Jr. So they played the hits. Yeah.
Either. But Jerry Manuel, like, Ray, why isn't Jerry Manuel the manager? Really? He should be the guy.
Yeah. Dave Righetti's the bullpen coach. Coach for decades in the majors. Dino Abel and Lou Collier, first and third base coaches. I admit I'm not.
Lou Collier, I feel like, is an ex-player. Like, I feel like he had some kind of taste of the majors.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds familiar.
But it's like you're looking at this list of players, and why is not Jerry Manuel the coach? Good question.
Yeah, it's and Ray, I guess you can say, well, Jerry Manuel's the bench coach. He's there to help DeRosa. Okay, whatever. Dave Righetti's the bullpen coach. He's there to help Pettit. Like, I guess that's what but just give him the job then. Let Mark DeRosa be the bench coach.
But think about it too. The bullpen coach is Righetti. Fine, right? The pitching coach is Andy Pettit. Wouldn't you want Dave Righetti, who actually was a coach for 2 decades in the majors, to be the pitching coach versus the guy in the bull? I don't know. It is. I hadn't thought of it until you brought it up.
Yeah.
But you have a right to be frustrated with that.
Yeah, we have managers everywhere in this country. Good ones that none of us have even heard of. Send them out there. let's have them manage this huge, big international event. An event that if you don't finish, right, if they don't finish 1 or 2, it's like, it's not embarrassing, but it's like, what? It'll be disappointing, to say the least. Like, there's actually a little bit of pressure because the only headline, there's 2 headlines here for baseball, for like the general people. They failed, and oh my God, what's wrong with Baseball America? Or the other one is they won like they should have. Those are the 2 headlines here. So I don't know. Maybe Mark DeRosa will parlay a WBC title into a Fox analyst role. He'll upgrade from MLB Network. We'll see. Elsewhere in the WBC, and Ray, I wanted to ask you this because, fair or not, it made me say, this guy I just got to give up on. Jose Barrios, who was terrible last year. You and I both got burned by him. A lot of people got. He sucked.
Yep.
I put up with him all year long. All year long. It was just bad. Ray, he goes out the other day. I think this was Saturday. And 6 runs, 5 hits, he got 3 outs. And I'm like, okay, if it were spring training, you let it slide a bit. This game means a bit more, right? If you're pitching for your country. That I saw that line, Ray. I'm like, again. And whereas maybe I would draft him, it's totally unfair, Ray. But I see that as that's too much like last year. I'm not touching this dude.
Yeah, my knee-jerk reaction was, and then I was going to run to the rankings, and I was like, let's break this down a little bit and everything. But last year the problem with Barrios last year was basically he couldn't locate his fastball, and when you can't locate your fastball, you're done. And he got blasted and blasted and blasted. And I think when in his case, we have such a good track record of success. We've got a young guy who's very diligent. Everyone talks about his work ethic and all that. We've got a very athletic guy. He's not 36 years old, right? So there's lots of reasons to think that he's going to hone down and improve this thing. To see that effort the other day of a continuation of last season is distressing. So I didn't overreact and drop Barrios 18 spots in the rankings or anything at fantasyguru.com, but this is enough of a concern that I think I'll say it this way. No one wants Barrios this year. What's his ADP? Let's pull it up as we're talking here. What is it? Is it 250? What is it? It's 220, 223. So am I in at that price point? I'm in at that price point. I'll take the chance. I'll take the gamble. And the beating he took at the WBC is not going to push that number higher. It's going to drop it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I will add at the cost with the understanding that I have to be reserved with my expectations this year.
Well, if you'd asked me a month ago, hey, Kyle, you have interest in Barrios? I would say, yeah. And heck, I'll love him if I give him as an SP5. I would maybe even take him as SP4, better than last year being a blip. Right, to your point, maybe now you can get him as an SP6.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're not hearing any hype and let's say his next outing's not all that good, blah, blah, blah. Heck, as an SP6, if he's like a bench pitcher for me,
right,
I'll be interested in.
Yeah.
So not completely erased off the board, but I'll be interested there. So
agreed.
But it was rough over the weekend. Let's see. Canada. That's who U.S. is playing tonight. Got 18 runs against Great Britain last night. But that has been topped. Today, Korea putting a hurting on the Chinese. I don't know how this is going to play with the Republic. 22-2, Ray. The Koreans, 22-2. China's now 0-4. Finally. They're not going to be tops at something. I'm looking at this. 5 RBIs. Who is this? You can't pull up the names individually. No giant games here. I mean, 3 hits there, hit here, but 22-2. So there you go. Little WBC update here on the program. That U.S. game tonight against Canada is a late start. I think it's 10 o'clock Eastern. Ray, you going to stay up for that one?
No.
No?
It's
like 7 o'clock your time, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I tend to have these things on in the background. It all depends on what the lady would like to watch this evening. And she's been working really hard. She's been working all night, or she's pulling all-nighters. So she might go to bed early, which would then give me an opportunity to watch more of the game.
The one thing I struggle with is literally, Ray, I have to sit there and say, do I want to watch this game, Canada and the U.S., when I know for the next 6 months I'm watching baseball every night? Lately, it's lost. It's lost. Now, like I said, last night I had it on the radio. I've watched very little of the WBC, but I have followed it. I checked, see what's happening. Tonight, Lance Lynn is pitching, so he's going to be on the hill. Anybody but Brady Singer after last night. Whew, that was bad against Mexico. Anyway, WBC tonight. They have 4 round robin games. This will be number 3. And again, our better cast this evening is Team Israel against Team Puerto Rico, 7 o'clock Eastern, right here on the BSN app. Take a breather here when we come back, moving away from the World Baseball Classic and moving into fantasy baseball for 2023. We are moving to the shortstop position, get you a look at a loaded position, and also ask one big question about a certain shortstop who started spring training 0 for 16, got a couple of hits, and then got hurt. He will be our one big question. We'll tell you who we're thinking about next right here on Lunch Money.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray. Weekdays at noon Eastern, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
We're talking catchers. And Ray, as we jump into this position, traditionally, this has been a position that you kind of say, well, there's like 2-3 guys and the rest is just junk. And gosh, I'm in a 2-catcher league. How in the hell am I going to fill 2 spots, in this 12-man league? And oh, it's such a struggle after the 8th catcher. Like, fair to say it's different now? I mean, I know it's not great, but it feels like the best catcher pool I've seen in a while, like at least a half decade, in terms of, wow, we've got some hitters, we've got guys, and I know they're not exclusively catchers, and the DH is helping, certainly, but it looks like we're going, 10, 12 deep at least of feeling good about catchers, I think.
I tier the players at positions because I think that's a really good way to look at them. And when you tier players, you're basically putting guys that are likely to produce similar levels of production in the same tier. One guy might be batting average, one guy might be home runs, that kind of a thing, but basically the same end result value-wise. I have 2 guys on the elite tier. I then have 9 guys or 8 guys on the next tier. And then I go all the way to 22 on the third tier, which basically almost gets us to that, 2 catchers in the 24, 12-team league kind of thing. So I agree with you. And I think that even if you look beyond that, there's some names that are outside my top 20 that I could easily see being top 15 catchers this year. So yeah, it's not wow, but it's good overall. We got some young guys coming in that are dynamic players to help out some of the older guys that are still hanging on. It's better than it has been. I agree with you.
It's actually very young, Ray. And that, I mean, you look at Varsho, Rauschman, William Contreras, Kirk, Melendez, Cal Riley's semi-young, but Hebert Ruiz. And there's still other guys coming up that are in the minors right now. That's, we used to always say all these young catchers, just catch, don't worry about hitting. These are guys are coming up with some skill sets as well.
Yeah, and the game is different now, right? Back in the day, you were an old dude that had no athleticism. You were good at blocking balls, and we hoped you'd pop 15 home runs, right? That was kind of the MO. Now it's different. Now we get more athletic guys. It's not that, you have to be some dumpy, slow guy catching. You can be an athletic player that can play other positions, as you noted. So I think the youngsters are bringing more athleticism, kind of like the tight end position in football, right? It's like there is more athleticism at the tight end spot than there was 25 years ago. I think it's the same way at the catcher spot.
Make bets and follow your fantasy team while you buy, sell, and trade collectibles in real time. Only on Bettor Sports Network.
Who's hungry? Time now for Lunch Money presented by FantasyGuru.com. Here's Kyle Elfrank and Ray Flowers.
Welcome back to Lunch Money here. Ray Flowers. I guess we have a little bit of a tech issue with Kyle Elfrank. We'll get him back here in a brief moment. Again, I'm Ray Flowers. I didn't mention this at the top of the broadcast today, but you can always follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at the Ray Flowers. You can check us out over in the Discord at fantasyguru.com as well. And don't forget to read the articles, the rankings, everything gets updated on a continual basis, including the draft book that was updated over the weekend. And this week, we're kind of focusing on the home run. We'll bring Kyle Elfrank back in. This week, kind of focusing on the home run. I know on the show, Kyle, we're focusing on positions and divisions this week.
Yeah, we're going to talk some shortstop. I appreciate you jumping on board there, Ray. I had a bit of a issue, which I think I've recovered from. But we hope you didn't miss out on me for those few seconds. Yes, we welcome you back to Lunch Money. Shortstop's coming up. Before we dig into that position and kind of set the scene for everything we're going to talk about this week there, let's talk about some spring tidbits as we come back in the week. A lot of things shaking over the weekend. And again, you got all this March Madness stuff going on. And obviously week 4 of the XFL, like you're busy with other things. So you might have missed a few items, including this one. Today is the day. Jake DeGrom. Yes, that Jake DeGrom. Ray is going to make his, I guess we can call it debut. He's going to pitch in a double-A game that the Rangers are having. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like a minor league rehab start in spring training. But we'll get to see him, I guess. And I would suspect probably 30, 35 pitches. And We'll just hope he doesn't have an injury. I mean, he's still in line, I guess, for opening day. I mean, that's about 2.5 weeks away, but I kind of wonder, is he more than 5 innings come opening day with this kind of late start?
It's good to know he'll go out, set a guy up for success, which is what they're doing. He's going to go out there and throw 37 pitches and have 6 strikeouts in 2 innings. Today. I don't know. We talked about this a little bit earlier with DeGrom. I mean, he might be at, let's say he's at 70, 75 pitches. That could get him through 5 innings. He's so efficient. I mean, it's one of those things that I think that they're playing the long game. And we saw with DeGrom, last year too. There's a lot of 85 pitch, 5 inning, 5 1/3. Like, he's not necessarily going deep into games. They're not going to let that pitch count get up, especially after that slow start.
Yeah. One other pass along here, Jordan Walker, who's been one of the bigger stories, I think, in spring camp. He's been getting a ton of playing time with the Cardinals. He's trying to earn an opening day gig. There have been some big home runs, a lot of hard hitting. He did come up with a mildly sprained shoulder. That happened on Saturday. He did not play yesterday. Ray, he acts like this is purely precautionary. He's fine. The team is saying it's precautionary. We shall see. I guess for now, you just take the word of the team and the player and say that hopefully he's back maybe Wednesday or Thursday of this week.
Yeah. And, we have time. It depends if you draft tonight or tomorrow, right? You could impact a decision there, but we have time to get clarity and try to get an understanding. When it comes to shoulders and that kind of a thing, I think we would know, right? There'd be tests being run, and he'd be, the doctors, and there'd be a little bit of panic. I don't think they'd necessarily be able to slip that one past us. I could be wrong, but I'm in agreement with you. It seems like we weathered a storm here, and it was a brief storm.
Yeah, they don't play today. The Cardinals have their Monday off, so we don't have a lineup for them today. So maybe tomorrow would be the earliest we could see if Walker's going to be out there. It might be a good thing for the Cardinals. They probably are tired of answering the questions about Walker on opening day. And I think in their heart of hearts, they'd like to think, well, these other guys are fine. They can get us for a while. Nobody's failed. Nobody else is injured. We'll put Walker at AAA. That's probably what they'd like to do. Right. But as we've said many, many times, he could make it hard for them to do that. But he is going to miss at least a day or two with that sprained shoulder. Moving now to the shortstop position. That is what we want to talk about this week. And I heard in that promo, Ray, right before we came back here from the commercial, it was a clip of you and I talking about catchers. And we talked about the youth at catcher. This shortstop position, Ray, and everybody knows this, it's loaded. Like, there is talent galore everywhere, but this is also a young position. I added this up before the show, and if you look at the top 10 shortstops according to ADP, and this is NFBC ADP, the average age of those top 10 shortstops is 25.6. It's really young, Ray, and there's super young guys like a Wander Franco. There's a lot of guys in the 24 to 25 range. All these guys are high end. Even like the vets, Ray, they're 27, 28. Like Trey Turner, 28. Corey Seager, 28. Those guys are still young in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I was looking at Francisco Lindor, 29. They're all kind of, like you're saying, they're all kind of there. So, yeah, it's a position where, we used to, if we're old enough like Kyle and me, or at least me, you remember the days of let's hope we get 20 steals and the guy hit 275. That'd be fantastic, right? Maybe he hits 14 home runs. Ooh. But nowadays that baseline is, we don't expect guys to hit 275 only, or just hit 14 home runs, or just steal 20 bases. We expect across the board stuff. And it's not just guys going 270, 10, 10. It's guys going 270, 20, 15 with 90 runs scored and 90 RBI. So there is a lot of depth at the position. There's a lot of prime age real estate at the position, and there's a lot of guys that can do a whole lot of things at the position.
Yeah, and sometimes when you say, wow, it's a loaded class, and wow, there's superstars here, where you can say, well, it doesn't matter. This guy, that guy, this guy, you'll be fine. And I think there's some to that at shortstop. But I ask at the very top, Trey Turner, is he just untouchable as the number one guy here? As good as these other guys behind him may be, is Trey Turner just the smart decision as the number one guy overall?
Yeah, in my opinion, I think he's a smart decision as the number one overall pick. So yes, at the shortstop position, he would be that guy. He has the widest breadth of talent / reliability / everything else. Like, there are guys that have more power, guys that could potentially have a higher batting average, all these kind of things. But as we'll discuss, a lot of these guys, there's a chink in the armor somewhere. I don't see it with Turner. He's got a team, he's got a ballpark, he's got a contract, he's got across the board potential. He's a 300 hitter with 20 home run, 30 speed baselines, 100 runs, 90 RBIs. Like, these are all baselines he attains on a frequent basis. He is an excellent overall hitter. He's got a terrific approach. He does change his swing on 2 strikes. He'll drop it down and start hitting ground balls, line drives. He's not one of these guys that strikes out a ton. I don't have a fault really with any part of his game. Maybe he's not a 35 home run guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, really, that to me is you're trying to find a reason to say he's not the top guy.
Yeah, we can argue about what he is 7-8 years from now, but now I think you're right. He's kind of the safe call as the top overall pick. But if he falls at 3, don't hesitate, people. If he's sitting there, just go ahead and grab Trey Turner. And of course, he got the big contract this offseason, raised number 1 at shortstop. Dansby Swanson, who's number 9, big contract this year. He goes to the Cubs. I mean, this position's so deep, Ray, that 2 guys who both got over $300 million, 2 guys. Neither of them are top 10. It's kind of wild to look and see Xander Bogaerts as the 11th shortstop off the board and Carlos Correa as the 15th. Correa is one of those guys, Ray, I feel like we should at least touch on because, unless you're like a baseball diehard, let's just say you're somebody who plays one fantasy league a season. You like it, you enjoy baseball, but your focus is maybe more on your hometown team, the All-Stars. And there's a lot of people like that. Carlos Correa is a name, certainly with the news this offseason. You kept hearing about Carlos Correa. And honestly, Ray, with, a title with Houston, and he's been around a long time, you've heard a lot about Carlos Correa. It's a surprise, I think, to a lot of people to look at shortstop, and all of a sudden Carlos Correa is the 15th dude. I don't know if that speaks to the depth, or maybe it speaks to Carlos Correa is a fine player, but for fantasy purposes, maybe he just doesn't really move the needle in any one category.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you look at the NFBC's ADP, like, he's 1 spot behind Jeremy Pena, which I don't get. Okay. But to your point, generally, Correa is not someone, could he hit 30 home runs? He could. He's not a 30 home run hitter. Could he hit 300? He could, but he's not a 300 hitter. Could he steal 15 bases? I don't think he can. So you start pulling away, and it's like he's in the Xander Bogaerts zone, right? Of a guy that needs to be good across the board because nothing stands out necessarily. Mm-hmm. Problem is, Xander Bogaerts has been more consistent, and he's been a better batting average guy than if he's getting 20 points on Correa. There's difference there. So Correa, I think, is a wonderful player. You can talk about overall defense, add it all up, and where does he fit? He skyrocket up the list. But yeah, in terms of the fantasy value, if he's hitting 275, 25, 85 with 5 steals, it's fine. You can win leagues with that. But it's not an effort in the fantasy space that stands out, and it really takes a lot. It takes a lot of maneuvering to get him to a point where he's hitting 300 with 29 home runs and 118 RBIs or something like that, Kyle.
Well, I guess the follow-up there, a lot of us are in 12-team leagues. That's kind of the general consensus, 12-team league. So you'd say, I want one of the top 12 shortstops for my starting shortstop in general. Right, you can get away with Correa as your starting shortstop, can't you? Yes. I mean, if you just wait on that position, you get him as the 15th, 14th shortstop off the board. And again, that's more of this depth argument is he may be that low, but you can still use him as your starting shortstop. And maybe you don't have an edge there, but you've got a good player in that spot still.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years ago, he was 1 hit away 2 years ago from going 280, 25, 90, 90. He hit, 279, scored over 100 runs. So yeah, he's totally fine. You can absolutely win a league with him. He's a perfect middle infield option, in my opinion, right? But people don't draft that way. Like, why do they draft Jeremy Pena instead of him? Well, he's a rookie, and look what he did last year. Oh, I guess they don't care that he doesn't know what a walk is. He's allergic to taking a walk, and he's going to hit 252. I guess people don't care. Because, oh my God, he could hit 30 home runs. Oh my God, he could steal 20 bases.
Look at his October. Yeah,
that's how people think, and I get it. But Correa is a somewhat boring fantasy option, but one that I'd be happy to have on my team.
This is a position too, and this goes for the middle infield. It goes for the infield as a whole, but you'll find a lot of multi-positional guys, second, short, third, even some outfield. So pay attention to that. It can kind of move guys up. Certainly when you start talking about other middle infield options or bench options, shortstop has some good depth there to help you out as well. This all leads to our one big question. at the position. Every time we start a position every week, we hit you with the one big question. And the one big question here, Ray, deals with a shortstop going in the top 5, according to ADP. It's also a shortstop with dual positional eligibility. He's shortstop and outfield. And he is also a guy who will raise Ray Flowers' ire at any opportunity. Our one big question here, Ray, do you see Fernando Tatis Jr. as a risk worth taking? And I referenced an injury earlier. It's very minor, but then again, is anything minor with this guy? He was diving back to first base on a pickoff attempt, and he got hit with the baseball in the calf. He left the game. He was held out yesterday. We'll see if he's back there today. But, Ray, if that happens to anybody else, who cares? But Fernando Tatis Jr., he's like DeGrom at this point. It's like, when's it going to happen? It's Byron Buxton. When's it going to happen? Fernando Tatis, I said weeks ago, Ray, he probably is a risk I would take. I think I'm still there. I said this is my last go around with taking that risk. I assume that he is not a risk that you are interested in taking.
Well, and again, I think that if you take Tatis, he went 40-25 in 2021, and he qualifies at 2 positions this year. If he is that guy, and he could be that guy, I can't dispute that he could be that guy. You win. But what if he's the other guy? And it's not he's the other guy and he, hits 30 home runs with 18 steals. I'm talking about the other guy that doesn't even see the ball field. He's had shoulder issues that have supposedly been physically, surgically repaired. He's had wrist issues that supposedly been repaired. He's been in motorcycle accidents, plural, not one, but multiple. He let that slip in a news conference that people forgot. And we all thought it was one accident. It turned out it was 2. He's been in multiple bicycle accidents. He's got his wrist. He's coming back from surgery. He's playing in a soccer game with his friends in front of everyone before the game falls over, lands on his wrist. He has the PED, non-PED, butt cream, eye cream, acne cream. I don't even know what it was. Okay. But he is a horrific. What was that, Kyle?
Butt cream?
Well, whatever it was. Yeah. I don't know. Hemorrhoid cream.
It was hemorrhoid.
Yeah. Whatever the hell he tried to say it was. He's made horrible decision after horrible decision. Just how it is. Okay. Then you talk about the physical, the shoulder and the wrist. Okay. So there's that. So you have to make a decision. He didn't play a game last year. 0 games last season. 0. And as great a talent as he is, even if everything off the field is okay, that's a concern because it's not that he can't hit anymore. No, it's not that. Is he going to be able to play 150 games after playing nothing last year? Even if everything else is okay? I don't know. Is his body going to wear down? I don't know. Is he mentally in a good spot? I don't know. So he's not someone that I target. The price is actually reasonable-ish. I'm surprised it's not a little higher, to be fair, but I can't see drafting him personally.
Yeah, he's 4th at shortstop. He's like 18, 19, 20 thereabouts in a general draft. It's interesting. You talk about, a league winner. He can certainly be a top 5 guy, if he's playing Fernando Tatis level. Is he a league loser if he fails? I don't really think we have that in fantasy baseball where if you blow a 2nd round pick, you're doomed. I don't think we have that. So that's another reason why I'm willing to take risk. In fantasy football, Ray, it's like the McCaffrey stuff, that you always had to deal with because that could sink you. You invest the 1st round pick. He's your only running back that, so that can fantasy baseball is a little different. Even the greats, they help. We love them, all that stuff. But if you lose them, are you finished? No. Ray, I think it's worth noting with the suspension and with his background, 110 games. Probably.
Because
that's what you're
saying.
hoping
Yeah, he's
for.
not going to play 150 games. I shouldn't have used that because, like you said, he's out till April 20th. So he's, with the suspension, 110 games. Sure, but he's not being drafted to play 110 games, is he?
Yeah.
I think people drafting him are expecting 135, 140, right? And again, with him missing 3 weeks. Everything has to go right for him to play 135 games. Everything. I'd say 120. But again, if you said 110, I'm not going to place the bet on the over. I think both are totally doable or negatively doable for him this year.
I really like the 3 dudes ahead of him, which is Turner, Witt, and Bichette. I've got Bo Bichette penciled in as my AL MVP this year. I love those guys over Tatis. And I bring that up, Ray, because that's 3 dudes who I'm going to get probably at least a couple of shots of taking. Certainly, depending on where I'm at in the first round, I may have a chance at all 3. I may have a chance at 2 of them in the second round. So there's a part of me that says, I hope I don't even have to get to the moment of choosing Tatis or not. It's like I don't really ever take aim at positions in the early draft. Like, I got to get an outfielder. Right? But this is something where I really like all 3 of those guys, and maybe it just so happens that they're a shortstop and that I can take them instead of Tatis. Even if you don't get Tatis, you could settle for a Lindor, a Corey Seager. So I don't dislike the idea of Tatis. Again, I may find myself just pulling the trigger. We always say this: he's a fun guy to own. He's a fun guy to own until the injury happens, and he's not so fun. But there's just so many other opportunities, Ray, to get that stud at shortstop. And I like these guys more. They don't, not to say they won't get injured or, oh, there's no way this guy bats 250 with 12 home runs this year. That can happen to anybody. But there's so much baked in with Tatis of things that could go wrong. Like this position change, who knows how it goes? A guy diving around, running around, who's had injuries. I hope he's fine. They're athletes, are 22 years old, so that should be good. He should be able to handle it, but that's something to follow. And then, Ray, there's a ton of attention on this guy. Everybody's just looking for him to screw up. And,
absolutely.
We know the storyline. He's immature. He can't handle the money. He can't handle the success, whatever you want to say. Pressure on San Diego now. I mean, they're supposed to win. And, Ray, rustiness is not really allowed for Fernando Tatis. You mentioned being out a year. Guy starts spring training 0 for 16. If he starts the regular season 0 for 16,
after missing 3 weeks, and the people need him now,
and then you don't know where it ends. So, is he a risk worth taking? I would answer in the affirmative, but it's not like an automatic. Yeah, sign me up for that, because there are a lot of other options, not only at this position, but certainly at that point in the second round. It is our one big question at shortstop, and all week long we're going to be going through that position. So a lot more to come at a frankly very loaded position. Fernando Tatis, part of that great load. We'll take a breather here, take a break from the baseball as well. And when we return, March Madness. The brackets are out. Guessing many of you have already filled out 1, 2, 3, 4, half a dozen brackets. Who knows? But you're looking for help, right? Well, we're going to get you some help. Jason Lisk is going to join us. Team Rankings, BetIQ, stops in with his early thoughts leading in to the beginning of March Madness. We'll talk some college hoops next, right here on the Bettor Sports Network.
Talk about your picks and your fantasy teams on Bettor Sports Network.
The importance of checking out the site that you're playing on. Default rankings of these sites. A lot of times they don't get updated. I know from experience. I used to write default rankings for the NFBKC, the basketball version of the NFBC. I'd write these default rankings in June for the NBA, before the NBA draft, before free agency opened up. And guess what? I was never asked to write an update article or update the default rankings. This happens a lot. Maybe if there's something obvious, it gets updated. Aaron Judge, for some reason, hurts his back. Maybe they make that change. Just maybe. But you don't know that. And that's why it's just so important that you show up to your draft room or you do that pre-draft prep. We're all busy. We know we're about to devote a lot of time to our fantasy baseball drafts. Why not spend the extra 20 to 25 minutes to invest properly in your team, to go and see which of those players are way down default rankings? They're going to be different on all of these sites, and you're going to be looking at them and going, maybe their analysts think a certain player who shouldn't be in the top 100, who should be maybe even not even the top 200, will be in that top 100. You got to check that out. You got to know where you're playing, just like you got to know your format when you sign up for the league. It's just so crucial, and people just skip right over it. You think it's cool to show up to the draft room 3 minutes before the draft. Well, number one, it's not cool, because the commissioner's trying to make sure it is organized, especially me, who runs auctions. You can't, it's one thing if someone doesn't show up for the snake draft, oh well, doesn't ruin it for everyone. Auctions, you can't have someone not show up. Auto bidding, auto auctioning, it ruins the sanctity of those drafts here. which is why I always recommend, hey, make it easy on your commissioner. Don't make them send those texts there. It's annoying. You shouldn't have to do that. Don't wait till the last minute and get in there about 20, 25 minutes before so you can just look up and down the entire default rankings list so you can make a queue out of that, Ron. And the reason I keep saying this is because people still show up 2-3 minutes before the draft, and that's it. In fact, in one of my auctions, people were asking me where certain players were, and I go, did you search their name? No, I just got in. Well, that's no excuse right there. That's your own fault. I mean, when you're organized, so when you're a hard person to ask here.
You're getting those questions. This is your preschool league, right? People don't know how to search player names.
People freak out. They don't think. That's the problem. Because they show up 2 minutes before the draft. That's why.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com. Weekdays at 5 Eastern on Bettor Sports Network. It's always lunchtime here. Now back to Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers.
And one of the favorite pastimes this week, especially during lunch, filling out brackets. That's what people do during lunchtime. We're going to help you in just a few seconds to fill out those brackets. Jason Lisk is going to join us quickly, though. Before that, Ray, Trevor Bauer does have a home, it appears, for 2023. You just had to go across the ocean to find it. What do we got with Trevor Bauer?
Yeah, this is being sent out by RotoWorld. I don't know the source, but I'm assuming they vetted the source. The source is Yuki Yamada of Senkai Sports is reporting that Trevor Bauer has agreed to a 1-year, $4 million contract with Yokohama of the Japan Nippon Professional Baseball League. So sounds like Bauer's going across the sea. He's going to go play in Japan in their main league there. Not surprised Bauer would take this route. Didn't seem like anyone in Major League Baseball was willing to take a chance on him. He'll get a chance to see the world and see if he can have enough success over there to cause a team here to want to sign him next year.
See if he can keep his nose clean, probably more than anything. That'll be the case for Trevor Bauer. So wanted to get that news in before we talk some college hoops. Without further ado, let's talk some college hoops. Joining us now from TeamRankings.com, also BetIQ.com. You can find him on Twitter at Jason Lisk. Jason Lisk is with us here on Lunch Money as we get you set for the field of 68. Yes, it's no longer 64. We got those play-in games in Dayton, Ohio. Jason has taken a look at this bracket. He's ready to talk about it. Jason, thank you so much for coming on Lunch Money. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I'm operating on, energy drinks and whatever food I can grab over the last 15 hours. But
yeah, well, that's going to be your next 2 weeks probably. So, certainly the next few days, I would think. We'll start with the reveal. It came out yesterday, 6 o'clock Eastern. Everybody always has complaints. Hey, why didn't this team make it? Or why am I seated so low? Now that you've had 15 hours or so, Jason, do any teams have a right to complain about not getting in or being maybe unfairly seated?
I think the only one that stands out to me is I wonder what Buzz Williams did to the NCAA Selection Committee, the coach at Texas A&M. I thought A&M, they started the year 6-5. They got off to a rough start. They made some lineup changes, but they finished 26-9, second in the SEC, lots of great wins, went to the SEC final. They are based on current form with this lineup, they are a top 15 to 20 team, and they got a 7 seed in the same little quadrant as Texas. I thought they could have been a 5. Other than that, I think it was pretty much where you'd expect. There were some bubble calls, but all the teams that got the 11s were who I expected. I had Pitt out. I had Rutgers in, but that's shaving corners there. Both of those teams did enough to be left out, and the committee had to pick somebody.
Jason, earlier in the show today, Kyle was talking about, historically speaking, seed here, seed there, what that could mean in terms of upsets, because obviously upsets are what everyone on the outside, if they're not knee deep in this, is kind of looking for. Before we get to some specific teams, is there a general profile that you look at for the upset? Is it they're from this seed, they're from this, this part of the country, that kind of thing? What are some generalities for teams if we're looking to grab some upsets here early on?
Well, we would advise not going by seed specifically because every year is different. Like you never know what the committee, how strong it'll be, how weak it'll be at certain points. This year, for example, I would say the 12s and 13s are fairly strong relative to recent years. And that's because a lot of these mid-majors, the top team in the conference won it. And that's not always the case. Sometimes we see those teams get knocked off and get left out of the tournament. And then teams that would have been 14s get bumped up to 13s and 12s. This is a strong group. I mean, you've got two teams with over 30 wins on the 12 line. You've got two teams from traditional conferences that have done well, Drake from the Missouri Valley and VCU from the Atlantic 10 on the 12 line. And you got some other strong teams, Iona with Rick Pitino, et cetera. So what I would say is that you also want to look at the favorites and who's vulnerable. Some things to look at. Are they imbalanced? Teams that are offensively skewed but don't have great defensive numbers sometimes can be upset risks. Teams that turn the ball over when they face an underdog that can force turnovers or play at pace can be at risk. Teams with injury concerns, and there are some of those in this range as the favorites, can be at risk because if they're injury impacted, they're not as strong as they were building the resume that got them there.
Jason Lisk of Team Rankings joining us here on Lunch Money. All right, so those are some generals. Let's get specifics, Jason. Do you have a team, 2, 3 that you look at and say, yep, these are some underdogs in the first round with those characteristics in mind?
VCU, Virginia Commonwealth out of the A-10. Point guard was injured 5 of the first 10 games. They got off to a slow start, but with their healthy lineup, they've been dominant in playing at quality at-large level. And so they're better than their seed, and they're going against a St. Mary's team that plays at slow pace. So a slow-paced game with a team that create turnovers, reduce possessions. I mean, VCU's a live underdog there. Drake going against a Miami team who is guard-oriented, and their 6'7" big guy, who is their biggest starter, left the Duke loss very early, and his status is uncertain. So, I mean, if that Miami team is injury impacted, this Drake team is a veteran group that has played really well down the stretch with the current lineup. Again, had some early injuries and lineup shifts, playing much better over the last 2 months. And so those are two on the 12 line. And then I think a team like Mississippi State, if they catch Iowa State, that would be a rock fight. But Iowa State turns the ball over. Iowa State can play to the level of their competition. This Mississippi State team has strong interior defense, can block shots, has a dominant big man. Not a great outside shooting team, but you get in the tournament, these teams that don't shoot great aren't relying on shooting great. So if they happen to hit shots in a particular game, they're actually coming at value.
Mm-hmm. You know, Jason, you mentioned VCU and Drake. Both are double-digit seeds, as you noted. Would they be your best bet? You know, the brackets come out, and sometimes you're like, well, even if they win this game, they're going to run into a buzzsaw in the second round. Or, you know, in this pod, boy, if they win this game, they could cruise maybe to the Sweet 16. It's kind of viable. Is there a team in that double-digit range that just because of the way the first and second round set up, you could see them, quote unquote, making that Cinderella run into the Sweet 16?
Yeah, and I'm going to caveat this with, like, you know, here at Pool Genius Team Rankings, we give bracket advice, customized advice if you are a subscriber. And we would generally say, don't pick so many upsets if you're in a smaller pool. So this is caveated with that. It depends on pool size. But I do think teams like Drake and VCU, if you pick them, if you get bonus points for upsets, or if you're in a large enough pool where it makes sense to take those risks, taking them to the Sweet 16 is not crazy. They are good enough. I think like Drake's a 2.5-point underdog to Miami. And if we get injury news, it may shorten from that. So they are right there with Miami, and they're going to be competitive. And if people are underpicking them because they see the seed, they may be a value.
Okay. From the bottom or near the bottom to the top, we got 4 number ones, as always. Houston, Bama's the actual overall number 1, Kansas, and Purdue. Of those 4, who's got the toughest road in getting to Houston in the Final Four?
I think the answer to that is definitely Kansas, based on what everybody's saying and what our numbers say. Kansas got put out west. That UCLA team does have a starter who's out, but we're top 5 power rated all year. The 3 seeds Gonzaga, who has been surging lately and has always been, you know, is always up there and still has Drew Timme. The 4 seed is Connecticut, who's power rated as a top 10 team, maybe got underseeded just a bit as a 4. And then you've got, that entire region's loaded. TCU even is a 6, is strong. So that's a strong region where there's just a lot of landmines. Arkansas is the 8. If Arkansas wins their first game, that Kansas-Arkansas game is not a gimme.
Jason, what about the other side of things? Who's got the easiest road as a 1 seed? Who's going to sail right through to the Final Four?
Well, I don't know. And I would never say anybody's going to sail because upsets happen, but I do think Alabama caught the easiest path in terms of matchups and who to pick. Now, in a lot of brackets, that means they're going to be really popular, and you got to balance that. But I think Alabama has the best road to get to the Final Four in terms of matchups. And I believe they're with Virginia as the 4. Virginia hasn't been particularly strong of late, can struggle to score, probably seated above where their quality's been. I mean, Duke just beat them, and Duke is a 5 in another region. I would take Duke over Virginia again if I were which one would be stronger to come up against. So I think they caught a decent draw there. So I would say Alabama.
Jason, what if we look at kind of seeds in the middle, 5 to 8, kind of the middle zone there? Are there squads that could, kind of put it all together and maybe make it to the Final Four? Do you see someone emerging potentially from that middle group?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, the one and the public's not all.
Did we lose Jason?
Yep.
No, go ahead, Jason. We got you.
The betting markets are more on this than the public has been, but this Duke team is as a 5 seed. So they got a couple things working for them. One, Tennessee, whose power rating numbers are high, lost their starting point guard like a week and a half ago. So they're not as good as their numbers. Tennessee is injury impacted. Duke has a lot of talented freshmen who were injured early and is surging now. And they just went on a run through the ACC tournament, have 2 7-footers, have talent. This Duke team is won as the 5 seed. A&M is a 7, but has a tough draw with Texas and Penn State. And then I would say a team it wouldn't surprise me if one of these 8-9 games came out and beat the 1 and then went on a run like North Carolina did last year. I wouldn't pick it necessarily in a bracket straight up, but I would look at the betting markets on some of those 8-9 games against the 1.
Joining us, Jason Lisk, again, teamrankings.com. Give him a follow on Twitter as we go through this entire month of March. He will have plenty of insight. You can follow him at Jason Lisk, Lisk is where you can hunt him down on Twitter. Couple of more quick things for you, Jason. And we'll have to do this again so we can continue to get a lot of this great knowledge going through the tourney. First off, we got the first 4 games, 2 on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday. So we've got, 16 seeds facing off and pretty well the last 4 in facing off on Tuesday night and Wednesday night in Dayton, Ohio. Of those 4 games, if we can only watch one, which one are you pointing people in the direction of?
If you want entertainment value, it's probably that Arizona State-Nevada game, just the way those teams play. Mississippi State's going to turn it into more, like I said, a rock fight. They are not a good outside shooting team, but they have athletes and can defend and rebound. So I'd probably lean Arizona State-Nevada on matchup style. I'm interested in this Mississippi State team, though, in terms of advancement. I think they'd be a tough draw for Iowa State. So I'm interested in that one.
Okay, we've gone through favorites, possible Cinderellas, upset picks, all that stuff. Everybody's got to have a Final Four as they see it. So not to say you're locked and loaded into this. A lot of things can change by Thursday and Friday. But who do you kind of favor out of each of the 4 regions to make it down to Texas?
So I like Houston. Marcus Sasser, their point guard, did sustain the muscle injury in the semifinal, and he sat out the final. I think he'll be okay, but we don't know that. So there's a little risk there, but I still like Houston out of the Midwest. I think Alabama's path makes them a desirable team to put in the Final Four. And then I think those other regions are wide open because that West is so tough with Kansas having so much other competition. You could literally take 4 or 5 teams and pick them out of a hat. Kansas could do it, but Connecticut could knock them off in the Sweet 16 if they get that far. Gonzaga can make a run now that the pressure's off. They aren't the top seed. And then in the South, I have concerns about Purdue, but I'm not sure I love anybody else out of that region. Duke would be the team, if I were leveraging it, I would take. to say it's an upset run.
Would you roughly say there's a dozen teams that have a legitimate shot of a title, or even more than that?
Yeah, you know what? This year is a lot more. The top teams aren't as dominant as some of the recent years. So if you look at even in the betting markets, we're talking like 10% for the top 3 candidates, where we've seen teams at 20, 25 in the past couple of years as the top favorites. So really, yes, there are like maybe 8 more teams besides the top 3 that are at something like 4 to 5% to win it all. And so it's a lot more narrower gap. So you get most of the top 2 seeds, plus Duke, plus Connecticut, plus Gonzaga, and teams like that in the betting markets. And all those teams, I think, have a chance to make a run.
Busy times for Jason Lisk, no doubt. You can find him again over at Team Rankings, betiq.com, helping out with things there, getting you set for the tournament and hunting down opinions, hunting down takes. You can find him with Jason again on Twitter. At Jason Lisk is where he is at. Jason, a pleasure. Our first go around, our first visit, but we'll make sure to do it again. It was good stuff. Okay.
Yeah. Sounds great. Talk to you later.
Jason Lisk joining us. March Madness officially beginning tomorrow. Again, we got the 2 games in Dayton, 2 more on Wednesday. And then Thursday and Friday is that traditional day off from work. Ray, though, not taking off Thursday nor Friday. But I bet he'll have the game on in the corner. Right, Ray? You'll have a little basketball hooping in the corner, right?
Probably not. Well,
not even
I was talking to my brother about this. Again, I don't watch college basketball, so I don't get a lot of joy out of it because I don't even know who the players are. You know, I didn't go to big basketball schools, so I don't have that. I'm a huge fan of the sport, and I watch the NBA, but probably not.
You know what I'm realizing, Ray, is in the World Cup, you didn't know anything about the World Cup, and yet we still managed to get a lot of correct guesses, even upset calls by Ray Flowers. I'm gonna have to dream up a game for the NCAA tournament for you to make picks.
Right? The hat right over there.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll think of something tonight. We got to find a way for Ray Flowers to make some. Everybody's got to make picks, Ray. Come on, it's March Madness, so I'm going to find a way that you can, with information in your hands. Now, it may have nothing to do with basketball.
Okay.
But information in your hands, we can make picks. It was successful at Cup time, so why not? We should keep it going. Again, big thank you to Jason Lisk. Good stuff there. Hopefully you got some insight as you start to fill out your brackets. We will take a break here. On the flip side here at BSN, football. Man, do we have a lot of football. We've got trades. We've got signings. I didn't even know the legal tampering period had started, but we're getting people reporting signings. We also have a contest for you, the BSN listener, where you can win some coin to be used in the Bettor Sports memorabilia shop. So loads of football. That is coming your way next, right here on Lunch Money.
Bettor Sports Network. Collectible moments.
Everybody up here at U.S. Cellular. Sox 5 runs, 6 hits. The 2-1 to Bartlett. Swing shot to short. Ramirez has it, throws. Burley picks the perfect game. His second no-hitter. People going crazy here at U.S. Cellular. He's mobbed by his teammates. A perfecto.
Now there's a steal by Bird. Underneath the DJ, lays it in. Right up, 1 second left. What a play by Bird. Bird stole the impounding pass. Laid it up to DJ. DJ laid it up and in. And Boston has a 1-point lead with 1 second left.
Out of the I formation on first down. Peterson to carry, looking for running room on the right side, has it to the 25, across the 30, across the 35, and out of bounds at the 40-yard line. Adrian Peterson has just gone over 2,000 yards for the season, the 7th man in NFL history to cross the 2,000-yard mark.
Well, a thundering ovation for number 66, Mario Lemieux.
Just the emotion I'm sure Mario is feeling in this place. You don't appreciate something until it's gone, and it's so great to have Mario back.
Yager turns around. Over to Lemieux. Mario Lemieux, his first goal in his comeback here tonight at the Mellon Arena. And the Penguins lead 3-0, and he is smiling like a butcher's dog. Mario Lemieux.
Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. The Bears have scored.
but the bands are out on the field. Pearson moves in front of the STP Dodge. Petty comes back to the inside. They almost touch as they move down low in the banking. They're going to be side by side as they exit the bank and head for the finish line.
Richard Petty goes back in front. They both spin. They're in the wall. Petty is sliding, slamming into the wall. He's coming down toward the finish line. Will he make it? Pearson is still running. The winner is car number 21. An amazing finish. Richard Petty's car demolished in the front end, as well as car number 21. An unbelievable finish, a terrible crash. David Pearson has won the Daytona 500. Leitner catches, comes down, dribbles, shoots, scores! Christian Leitner has hit the bucket at the buzzer!
Pitched by Downing, swinging. There's a drive into left center field. That ball is going to be out of here. It's gone. It's 7-15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
The most valuable player is Magic Johnson. 42 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists. He starts at center, plays forward and guard, and leads the Los Angeles Lakers to a world championship 123-107 over Philadelphia.
Whether you collect sports memorabilia, fantasy championships, or winning bet slips, talk about it on Bettor Sports Network. Bettor Sports Network. It's sports talk done better.
Here's Kyle Elfrank and Ray Flowers.
So you know how we always joke around on here that NFL contracts mean nothing? Like, whatever the money says they're getting, they're probably never going to see that money. That's kind of how the NFL works. Here's another example, Ray, of the wishy-washiness, if you will, of the NFL. I think free agency is supposed to start Wednesday at 4 o'clock Eastern. That's what I've seen everywhere. But here we are, Ray, at 2 o'clock, almost 2 o'clock Eastern on Monday. And like, we're getting multiple signings announced. So I don't know. We got a big one too. Javon Hargrave, who might be the best defensive line guy that's available. I think he had 11.5 sacks for Philadelphia. Adam Schefter says he has joined your San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, the real reporting is saying has agreed to sign with but as we know, this is huge for the Niners. Obviously, the Niners defense is one of the strengths of their unit. They're strong everywhere. This is another high-level player they're adding. 4 years, $84 million, $40 million guaranteed. He'll be part of a potentially dynamic defensive line. It was an area they wanted to add another piece to. They did in a significant way. There, it's a huge signing. Obviously, the Niners will still be one of the elite defenses in the fantasy game. The Niners, on the other side, did lose Mike McGlinchey, their right tackle. He's signing with the Broncos, and we're hearing a 5-year, $87.5 million deal there. So
that's another contract Austin Eckler can't get.
Yeah, exactly, right? McGlinchey obviously going to help the offensive line that struggled last year. I've seen all the reports coming out. This obviously is Russell Wilson. If you screw up now, it's on you. This is Sean Payton, going to the offensive line where he's long been. So there's that. We have another report. You want me just to keep going here, Kyle?
Yeah, I'll let you take over, and I'll go get a snack and be back. Since free agency hasn't even started yet, we can do whole segments on it.
Yeah, we haven't even started yet, but here we go. Mike Garofalo is reporting the obvious here, which is kind of the next move. The Raiders' starting quarterback at the moment was Jarrett Stidham. Well, Jarrett Stidham is now going to the Broncos to become the backup quarterback of Russell Wilson. $10 million for 2 years. It's a pretty significant contract for a backup behind Russell Wilson. So,
well, and I get contracts. What are they worth? But I wonder if cutting Russell Wilson after this year, Ray, is less burdensome, and you would already have Stidham in place. So it's a good backup to Russell Wilson, if nothing else.
And he showed well at the end of the season, and they paid for that, so they will have him. Which now leaves the Raiders without their starting quarterback, without their backup quarterback, without the quarterback they wanted in Tom Brady, without the second quarterback they wanted in Aaron Rodgers. So who goes there? It's looking like, of course, it's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that's what you predicted earlier.
Yeah,
Kyle, right?
Jimmy G was my call. A lot of people like Houston, which is still possible, I suppose. I mean, Houston, Ray, he's not a free. Well, he's a free agent. He was released, though, well before free agency. But Houston went out over the weekend, and they signed Robert Woods. I don't know if anybody caught that, but they gave him some money as a wide receiver, which was kind of head scratching to me. We'll see where Brandon Cooks ends up. It's going to be pretty wild, I would suspect, because Ray, the other chip, this Rodgers chip is going to fall probably in the next day or so. I mean, Rodgers is saying it. The Packers are saying it. Reporting is saying it. It just seems to be that they're dotting I's and crossing T's right now with him. And when he goes, then it really starts to happen at QB. And, we had Carolina. I mean, in effect, Carolina took themselves out of the free agency pool of quarterbacks. And they made that huge trade on Friday. And Ray, you and I haven't spoken since, and we were off air when that giant trade went down. But almost everybody says, man, the Bears made out like bandits with this trade, what they got and what they gave up. And considering they didn't, quote unquote, need the number 1 overall pick, everybody seems to think the Bears just hit it out of the ballpark on this one.
Yeah, by the way, the Panthers, there's a report saying that they'd be willing to move Matt Corral, who they drafted last year in the 3rd round. I guess they say we don't need him now, so they don't apparently need a quarterback in Carolina. That's the Bears. I heard there's the thought with the Bears that they should have waited a little bit to see if they could have enticed even more, because they're still got a month to the draft and all that. But I agree with you. I think they accomplished what they wanted to accomplish. They got pieces back. Some grumblings that they dropped down, 8 spots in the 1st round or whatever it is. Maybe they missed out on one of the elite guys, but they need help on both sides of the ball. It gets them that. This is a move that they, should have made. It was the correct move, as you and I discussed. You've got Justin Fields. Let's not do this nonsense, drafting another quarterback. So yeah, I think that the return was good, but some people, maybe it's a small minority, thought maybe they should have waited a little longer to see if someone else would have stepped up more.
Yeah, I think the unique part of that deal, Ray, is the DJ Moore part. Getting a player who is proven at a position where they have to. I mean, the Bears haven't had a receiver since they let go of Allen Robinson. His last year in Chicago was a disaster. Like, all the picks are great. You see them right there. But that DJ Moore sweetener is kind of what sells it, I think, for everybody.
Yeah, because again, this is not. I don't think DJ Moore is an alpha receiver. I think he's a step below that. But can he be a wide receiver 1? Yes, absolutely. We've seen him do that with Carolina. That allows, Darnell Mooney, if he's healthy, to slot down a spot. That allows Chase Claypool to slot down a spot. And all of a sudden, that's a pretty good trio, right? They've got, some strength. They've got some side. They've got some over the top. They've got some underneath. Like, it's a nice combination of players. And it certainly gives Justin Fields, if he can tighten up the accuracy, it certainly gives him a much better chance of being successful. Of course, provided, Kyle, that Chase Claypool can learn the playbook in 12 months. Like, we're not sure what the problem was last year. But those 3 guys, that starts, and that's what we talked about. It's what everyone talked about. They're not 1s and 2s, Claypool and Mooney.
Yeah.
You add in more, everyone slots down. Now we're looking pretty good.
Well, you still have Cole Kmet, Ray.
Oh, don't forget.
Yeah.
The sure-handed Cole Kmet.
Yeah, we'll see if they have David Montgomery. He's set to be a free agent. I keep wondering, Ray, because, Indianapolis, they wanted to move to 1-2. At least that was according to the reports. And I kind of look at what Carolina gave up there, and I wonder if, like, the Bears kind of had something similar with the Colts, and then they came back and said, oh, we'll need Michael Pittman. I wonder if that was a part, and the Colts said, hell no, we'll stay at 4 and get our guy. For the Panthers, they obviously have a guy they want. Now, they are saying, oh, we're open to trading that, and I guess, hey, every trade's available if you want to blow them out of the water. But Frank Wright's now the head coach. He's a quarterback guru, so he must have fallen in love with one of these guys and says, let's do it. I wonder what we got going on with Indianapolis at 4, because right now they're in the pressure cooker a bit. Someone could jump them to get to 2, and Indianapolis, in effect, could be frozen out here. Like, there's part of that fear that Indianapolis could be left kind of settling, if you will, for the 3rd or 4th best quarterback.
Well, what if the Jets don't get Rodgers?
Yeah,
that's another. So, yeah, I mean, there are teams, and we've said this all along. There are not enough good quarterbacks to go around. They're just, at this point in time, there's not. And a lot of the young guys coming out of school, teams have historically said, no, we're going to rest these guys. We're going to teach these guys. We're going to let them learn. Now they throw them into the fire early and their struggles. And, that decision-making process is it 2 years? It's quick. It's a year with some of these guys. So there's still some moves to be made, though. The pieces at that position are starting to fall into place.
Yeah, Colts at 4. At 2 is Houston. Definitely in the mark for a QB. Seattle's 5. They could be looking for a successor to Geno Smith. Raiders are at 7. But Ray, I guess it's safe to say the Raiders ain't doing anything now because just as we were kind of suspecting 5 minutes ago, Jimmy G is probably headed to the Strip in Las Vegas.
Yeah, Adam Schefter, it's happening. Adam Schefter just tweeted out the numbers: 34 million guaranteed, according to Schefter's source. 3 years, $67.5 million.
That's a great deal for the Raiders. For Garoppolo, I don't know if it's all that great. He's made a ton of money.
Yeah,
like Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't looking for a big paycheck. He's already got. I don't mind that deal at all for the Raiders, Ray.
It's not. I mean, and he's not appreciably different than Derek Carr. It's less money than they would have paid Derek Carr, right? So okay, yeah. I don't. And it's short. It's 3 years, and you know how these things go. It's 34
million. You can draft a guy still at 7, Ray. Will Levis, and you know, if you don't like Garoppolo after a year, you dump him and you go to Levis or something.
So it makes all the sense. You connect the dots. It makes sense. It's why you went with them when we were talking about it last week.
Couple of other things. Jalen Ramsey, if you missed it, he's been traded to Miami. 3rd round pick and Hunter Long, 3rd string tight end for the Dolphins. Obviously, Sean McVay has plans for Hunter Long. Atlanta has traded for Jonnu Smith today, which I was chuckling before the show, Ray. They have no idea how to use Kyle Pitts, and now they're going to bring in like Kyle Pitts the third. He's not a junior, so we'll call him Kyle Pitts the third, but it's like the same dude at the same position who can do the same things. Pitts can obviously, we think, do it on another level, but it's just kind of wild to see the Falcons making that move, and who knows, maybe it means Pitts is going more as a wide receiver. That's possible, but Jonnu Smith off to the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of a head scratcher. I mean, Jonnu Smith is not widely known as Mr. Blocker. You know, he's an athletic guy that can do some things. And I maybe the Falcons look at their roster and realize that their receiving core is lacking. And this is a way to do it. Jonnu Smith is very athletic. He played, I don't know, tailback, halfback, H-back, he's worked out of the backfield before. He can do a lot of things. So hopefully they'll, excite this thing up a little bit, which would be nice because they were a very staid offense in 2022.
Yeah. Couple of other things. Juwan Johnson, 2-year extension with the New Orleans Saints. So that has happened at tight end. Sterling Shepard was out with New York. Now he's back on a 1-year deal. An old Giant, and this is just a report, so I don't want to say it's confirmed or it's factual, but Ray, a report said over the weekend that Odell Beckham is wanting $20 million a year to be a wide receiver.
I know. I had the exact same reaction. I read this and I'm like, dude, serious? Is it $2 million a year and someone added a zero? Like, I mean, shocker he wasn't signed last year, right? At the end of the season. Like,
well, if this were his demands, right?
Yeah,
he's never going to get signed.
I can't run right now, but I need $20 million. Oh, okay. It's just laughable. I mean, it's just, dude, he'd be lucky to get 3 years and $20 million. It's laughable. Yeah. And we'll see. And again, this speaks to everything we talked about with Odell Beckham over the years, living on some other planet, doing his own thing. It's ridiculous.
His old teammate Baker Mayfield, he's out there. Kind of, he's the true "I'll settle for this guy" quarterback. Tampa may be where they settle. And I will note, Ray, like Mayfield, you'd have to throw Jacoby Brissett here too. Like we talk about Carolina, and you draft your QB at 1. A guy like Brissett, I don't know if they're going to do Mayfield again. He was just there, but they could do like a Sam Darnold holdover for a bit. And so you don't immediately have to throw this guy to the Wolves, especially if you're thinking Richardson as your QB. There are avenues to where those guys are not starting immediately. Reports also indicate Dalvin Cook has been offered in trade talks. We told you about Austin Eckler. Free agency is not that horrible at running back. You got Jamal Williams, you got David Montgomery, you got Devin Singletary. There's a chance Cincinnati may be moving on from Joe Mixon. Like, Ray, you throw all this together, and it's like it just proves how these dudes are treated. It's like, yeah, they're fine, they're good, but once you get too pricey, you're too pricey, and we're moving on from you.
Yeah, when it's price, when it's age, I mean, and there's not a finite. It's different for everyone, but there's a shelf life, and it's not a long one, unfortunately, for the running backs, and it's one of the reasons too. A lot of teams share the backfield, so they get some. Later in the year, they don't feel like guys are worn down and such. But yeah, it's rough out there if you're a running back, and we continue to see signs that the league is of the opinion that they're kind of interchangeable pieces.
Yeah, and about the only way you stick around is if you take a restructuring. Zeke Elliott is probably going to have to do that. A few other guys. Speaking of restructuring, that deal that Lamar Jackson wants, the Deshaun Watson deal, well, yet again, that ain't the deal. He restructured his contract, $35 million off the books with Deshaun Watson's restructuring. And Ray, that again goes to the heart of the matter with Lamar Jackson. This contract, this fanciful contract he keeps wanting, it doesn't exist. I mean, it's just not there because of how the NFL treats these things.
Yeah, and there's a lot of debate. I mean, I understand both sides here. The players want more, the owners want less. Okay, fine. It's a tough sport, and with guys that blowing out something every day in football, like I understand why the contracts aren't guaranteed, but it's tough on the players. That's why I try not to get too aggressive with players when they hold out or when they ask for more money, because they're not getting the money that's on their contract. I get that, but you still have to be reasonable. And like you're saying, Lamar Jackson, from all the reports, he's just not being reasonable, and we're seeing it. I mean, go out and seek a trade. There were 9 teams within like 3 hours. Like, nope. Reports on no one, because remember, it's not just we got to pay you an unreasonable contract. We got to give up picks. And who's willing to do that? And we're seeing nobody.
One other bit of news. We told you Garoppolo to the Raiders. Probably going to hear about Rodgers to the Jets sometime in the next 24 hours. The Miami Dolphins. Ray, they in effect made a commitment to Tua last week. They picked up his 5th-year option. So he's under contract for year 4, under contract for year 5. But they are addressing the elephant in the room. Realizing that, hey, we probably need a viable backup, and they have picked up that man today, it looks like.
They have Adam Schefter reported, even though it can't be reported until Wednesday, that the former Jets quarterback Mike White is now going to be the backup to Tua Tagovailoa with the Miami Dolphins. He's going to sign a 2-year deal worth up to $16 million. Again, this is even more than the Stidham deal. 2 years for Stidham, 10. This is 2 years up to 16. For White, there were a lot of people that rejoiced when Tua was given the extension, right? Oh, he must be healthy. You're not paying $16 million to a backup quarterback if you truly believe that. This was a smart move by Miami. It gives them a quarterback that can be serviceable. It's not an outlandish contract. They're not paying an outlandish amount of money yet to Tua. You add them both together, you're paying $30 million for the quarterback. That's reasonable in this day and age. So good signing by the Dolphins to give them a viable backup option.
Yeah, it makes absolute sense. Even if Tua stays healthy, this move still makes sense. It's good to have a backup QB. And remember this with Tua. Big moments last year when he was on the field, exciting things. We saw some improvements, certainly with Hill and Waddle and those guys. But he's not a finished product. And let's say it goes bad. Well, now you have an option, even if Tua is healthy. If it's not working offensively, you have Mike White to kind of push buttons with. So we shall see there. But quarterbacks are flying. The Jets at this moment have Zach Wilson, and that's it.
They better get Aaron Rodgers. There's no one left.
Well, it's happening. It's pretty well a done deal. Everybody else is making moves for QBs, Ray. Like the only other place, outside of the teams that are drafting it, like a Carolina, like an Indy.
Mm-hmm.
Houston's going to draft one. I don't know. The Jets are like the only place, and that's where all the smoke is on Rodgers. We'll just see when it happens. But hey, signings are being reported. Free agency, again, does not begin till Wednesday. I bring all this up, and I need to mention that if you go to bettorsports.com/game, bettorsports.com/game, we told you about this last week. I'll reiterate it again today. Today is your final chance to be a part of our free agent predictor game. We've got 10 free agents listed there. You go in, you make your prediction, and you got a shot at a $250 prize to the Bettor Sports Memorabilia Shop gift card that you can use there. Autographed shirts, jerseys, helmets, photos. It's all available at the Bettor Sports Shop. So $250, and the deadline is tonight, I think at midnight Eastern. So right now we're at 2 o'clock Eastern, so you got about 10 hours to get that list together. Again, 10 names, you pick the team, and whoever gets the most right, $250. So play that game, bettorsports.com/game, singular, game. And you're going to find that very easy to sign up, enter. I think you got to be 21, but then you are good to go. Probably some more signings to report, I would guess, in the next hour. So if those drop, Ray and I will have the latest. Barring that, though, we're going to talk some baseball coming up in this third hour. A lot of more things to jump into from spring training. We've got some thoughts on the NL Central as we kind of profile that league, our division this week. And also some news and notes items, as you might expect. Injuries. We got a lot of them piling up. Nothing severe, but things that can certainly become nagging in the month of April. We'll tell you about those, all of it coming your way. Like I said, we're busy today. We'll keep it busy in our final hour next, right here on Lunch Money.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray. Weekdays at noon Eastern, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
Vladdy swings at the first pitch and lines it into right center.
How did a guy who was being selected in the first round pretty well everywhere last year, he proceeded to lose 33 runs, to lose 16 homers, to lose 14 RBIs, and to lose 37 points in batting average. Oh, and 184 points in OPS. He went down everywhere. How does that guy, Vlad Jr., still register as the #1 fantasy first baseman? Ahead of Paul Goldschmidt, who won the MVP last season. Ahead of Mr. Freddie Freeman, who does the same thing every year, which is hit .315 with 25 homers and 100 ribbies. Ray, it's like Vlad Guerrero Jr. had nothing to worry about. It's like they thought they were getting him and his dad, as you can see there on the photo. You get both of them when you draft him at #1. I'm just surprised, and it was not a bad season, but Ray, it was such a disappointment compared to what he posted in 2000.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair to say. Vladimir Guerrero, in 3 of the 4 years, he's been average to good. He had one spectacular season. And we keep talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. The positives are the lineage, positives are the skill set, positives are the StatCast data, which everything's like top 5% murders the baseball. The negatives are he has not hit 275 in 3 or 4 years. We keep talking about this too. He does not hit the ball in the air. It's remarkable, his ability to hit 30-plus home runs, given that he never gets the ball in the air. His ground ball rate last year was 52%.
Well, and we're asking the question, how is he still #1 at first? But what catches me even more so, Ray, is the overall. I mean, he's a first-round pick overall, and I don't think he has any business in the first round. I look at his profile, and there are so many guys going behind Vlad that just have business in the first round that deserve to be there. Freeman, Machado, Bichette, Rafael Devers, I think maybe Pete Alonso. You put Austin Riley ahead of him. If he gets 310, 30, 190, he's a first rounder.
I think the play with Vlad is the batting average because he hits the ball monstrously hard. I could see him hitting 320.
Can you hit 320 with a 52% ground ball rate?
You can, but it helps if you're athletic and fast. And he's
yeah, exactly. And I get it. His hit tool's strong, Ray, and he's good. It's funny his ground ball percentage is that high because on the occasions when I get to watch Blue Jays baseball, I don't see it. I see him hit the ball. And it's not really grounders. I'm surprised the number is that high. It feels like he stings the baseball, but I guess there's just no lift overall in his game.
It's just a little tweak to his swing that could really lead to that growth back toward where he was in the home run column. And I think people, he's done it. This is not hypothetical. He did it 2 years ago and he's still just 23.
Make bets and follow your fantasy team while you buy, sell, and trade collectibles in real time. Only on Bettor Sports Network.
Lunch Money, where we don't take your money, we make you money. Now back to Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers.
Well, busy times in the NFL. Just within the last half hour or so, report here, report there, signings everywhere. We've got Jimmy Garoppolo going to the Las Vegas Raiders. That's what's going to happen there. We got Mike White going from the Jets to the Dolphins. We have Jarrett Stidham going from the Raiders to the 49ers. We have guards getting 5-year contracts over $100 million. We have Austin Eckler said to be requesting a trade. We have Deshaun Watson reconfiguring his contract and saving the Browns $35 million. Robert Woods has a job for some reason. Jonnu Smith's a Falcon for some reason. I don't know where it ends, Ray, and I probably missed 3 or 4 things with the NFL right now.
NFL. I mean, think, and again, this is all right. Dead horse thing. Ray beat it.
This is great, Ray. Come on. This is what makes it fun.
But think about this. The league sets the date as Wednesday, and everything gets reported on Monday. It's all a farce. The whole thing is a farce. It's all orchestrated.
No, Wednesday is when we give our final take on NFL free agency.
Yeah, right. Once all the deals are actually deals. Yeah, it's just the NFL is so good at that. They're marvelous at it. And if the other sports, and the takeaway is, if the other sports could take away from this what the NFL has done, they'd be in a better spot.
Yeah, our legal tampering division, the NFL, giving us all sorts of new items. Now, there might be a story that is even more chuckle-worthy than the NFL free agency starts on Wednesday. Ridiculousness. Ray, it's with the New York Mets, where I think I'm going to write down these bullet point times. At 12:39 Eastern today, it was reported Buck Showalter meeting with the media, I guess maybe before the game, something, and he said, Quintana's going through some study. We think he's going to be back on opening day. We think there's a good shot. That was at 12:39. Ray, at 2:03 Eastern, about 10 minutes ago, Jose Quintana won't even throw a baseball for 3 hours?
No.
Days?
Weeks?
3 months. The only way it could have been worse is if they said Jose Quintana will not throw a baseball for 3 years. But Ray, for 3 months, a mere hour and 24 minutes after Buck Showalter said we think he's going to be back on opening day, Jose Quintana out for 3 months with the Mets.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, again, we're not watching the press conference and everything because we're doing the show here, but that's the timeline as it was. He said a bunch of things. He was interviewed this morning. And here we go. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say Buck Showalter is a liar or anything like that. But, Buck knows how this goes. He was in the media himself, right? He knows how this goes. As soon as this happens, I'm lighting into every one of my words. I can't go out there and look like a buffoon. I just look like a buffoon because you guys didn't tell me what's going on, right? Like, this is awful. Quintana's, 3 months without throwing. He's done for the season. He can't be drafted out. NL only leagues don't even draft him. You just can't. The question now is, what do the Mets do? Do they go Tyler McGill, or do they go David Robertson? Because this is now a big decision, because this is not, like you're saying, 3 days, 3 weeks. This is half the season with him Quintana not even throwing. So a best case scenario is what? 4 months? A best case scenario. So they might need this fifth guy for at least 4 months, if not the whole season. And don't forget, Cody Senga, he's got the issue with his finger. They say he's okay. Yep. He's going for further testing today. It might be both Peterson and McGill in the rotation to start the season for the Mets. Kyle, we'll have to see.
Welcome to the big time, Steve Cohen. This is how it works. Two guys you spent a ton of money on, Senga and Quintana. Certainly one of them is out for opening day and half the season, and the other one, who knows, with Kodai Senga. Steve Cohen's probably hurriedly seeing if he can track down Trevor Bauer before he leaves for Yokohama. That ink's not dry, is it, Trevor? No, it's dry. Trevor Bauer, it looks like he's going to head off to Japan, try and reestablish his reputation. A lot of other things over the weekend. First off, Fernando Tatis Jr., we talked about him earlier. He is in the lineup today, so that's good news. Remember, he had gotten hit in the calf just a couple of days ago. Didn't play yesterday, but he was playing today. Vlad Jr., it's now been over a week since he first hurt his knee. Still hasn't played, which is fine. He's doing exercises and running. They are aiming for the middle of this week with Vlad, so they're taking it slow. Of course, Houston, Ray, has been taking it really so with Yordan Alvarez. I feel like for 2 weeks we've been saying every day he's not hitting, he's not swinging, he's not. Over the weekend, Ray, he is starting to swing a bat. So he's I guess getting closer there. Mitch Haniger has a side issue, quote unquote oblique. Harrison Bader going to miss about 6 weeks for the Yankees. Nestor Cortez spring debut not until March 19th. Alex Kirilloff iffy for opening day with the wrist injury. And then Ray, just to take everybody back to the greatest hits of 2020, 2021, 2022. Nick Senzel is on the injured list. I didn't even know he was injured. I guess I missed that in the cascade of weekend news, but Nick Senzel starting the year on the IL. It's baseball season officially now.
And again, we're more than 2 weeks before the season begins. He's already going on the IL. Yeah, this is really interesting. And this is a guy that we've talked about, Will Benson. I mean, Will Benson is a potential masher for the Reds. There was the kind of the running debate: is he going to make the team? Well, his spring has been really good. It looks like he's going to make the team. Former first-round draft pick, a guy with a ton of power, a ton of speed. He's a 2015 potential play. He's kind of like Jake Fraley, actually. They got a couple of guys there with the Reds you don't get real excited about if you look at their ADP, but both Fraley and now Will Benson, someone that has to be taken more seriously in mixed league.
Can they be? A lot of people play 5 outfielders, Ray. Are they outfielder 5s in like a 12-team league, or is that jumping the gun a bit too much on them?
I think
remember the team's horrid, but
yeah,
you can still put up numbers in that ballpark.
Well, I think let's look at it real quickly. Like Fraley's ADP is just dipped inside the top 300, I believe. Yeah, he's up to 280. So he's actually seen a pretty. He was in 330 when I wrote an article, players to target, like 3 weeks ago. So he's jumped a lot. People starting to look around and notice that. The good news is he's there. Benson will start to rise at this news with Senzel, but he's well outside of the top 300. I think, to answer your question, I think they could be. Yeah, I think they absolutely could be outfielder 5s, but you still don't have to draft them that way. And that's the advantage you get right now, is taking guys that could get there versus guys where you're drafting them at the point where that's what the universe expects.
Another thing we saw over the weekend is young dudes getting big contracts. Keibert Ruiz, catcher of the Nationals, 8 years, $50 million. I think he's got like a year and a half of service time, maybe. And even blowing that one out of the water, Ray, was Corbin Carroll, who many people consider the best prospect in baseball. We saw him for a little over a month last year. And Ray, already, the Diamondbacks have said, that's worth $111 million. $111 million bucks for the next 8 years to a guy, Ray, who's played a month of baseball. And at least at the major league level, that's backing up your excitement when you give that kind of contract to a guy like Corbin Carroll.
And it could be $134 million, right? They can add a year to it. So, I mean, I just think of, and this is, we've talked about this and suggested this is what teams are going to do. This is what teams are starting to do. Just think of it. Michael Harris with the Braves. The Braves again. I mean, the Braves ripped off Ozzie Albies. The Braves ripped off Ronald Acuna. The Braves ripped off Michael Harris. They gave him 8 years, $72 million. So the Braves have done this before everyone else and gotten on the train and signed their guys before their guys have had a chance to look around and realize, oh crap, Corbin Carroll just got $35 million more than me. Like, wait, what? Like, you know, I mean, this is the way of the world. And when you start talking about players, just, you know, because there's all the calculations and everything. If Corbin Carroll is a superstar, fantastic for them, right? If he's a good player, they're okay, because the way the arbitration process goes, they're not appreciably, maybe they lose $15 million, right? Okay, so it's not, but, you know, if he flames out, that's one thing. But if he doesn't flame out and no one thinks he's going to flame out, it's really not a bad business decision if you start playing it out.
You know, I didn't draw the connection there, Ray, between Harris and Carroll, but that is wild.
Huge difference.
And again, all those Brave guys, and I've heard it described, Ray, as, you know, why do they sign these contracts? Well, what they see is, hey, Ronald Acuna is going to be here for the next 6 or 7 years. Ozzie Albies is going to be here. These guys are my buddies. You know, we're young, we're excited. And they're like, yeah, I'll do it. But, you know, here we are. I always complain about the money stuff. And this is like, that's a total miss, isn't it? Like the fact that Corbin Carroll's agent and I guess team too, $110 million. And Ray, Michael Harris was rookie of the year pretty well last season. Best hitter in the National League as a rookie. He's played 4 months versus Carroll's 1 month, and he's, like you said, $35 million less in his back pocket over the next 8 years.
Corbin, we love you. I love you guys. I want to be here. Okay. I want $150 million. Corbin, no. We're going to pay you 80. No. Okay. How about this, Corbin? The Braves gave Ronald Acuna 8 years, $100 million. We'll give you 8 years, 111. Deal. Like it. I mean, that's not what happened. But you know what I mean? It's like, again, the Braves signed Ronald Acuna to an 8-year, $100 million deal, right? You know, when he was a star, right, at the beginning from the day one, right? So again, the Braves, it's 5 years, $35 million for Albies, right? 172. Like, again, and we talk about this all the time. I'm not turning down $72 million, right? Like, I'm signing that contract too. But I don't think it's a miss by the Diamondbacks as much as it is what you said. The Braves just doing it better. I mean,
and we hear people all the time, "Oh, the Braves this, Brave." Dude, this is exactly what Cleveland did back in the mid '90s. Cleveland, like that, Baerga, Alomar, Manny Ramirez, Tomey, like, Ray, they did this exact same thing. Albert Bell, like, they got all these guys coming up and they handed them money. They immediately signed them, and that was almost 30 years ago. And not a whole lot of other teams really did that. I remember Cleveland went in on that. Like, they were sold these young guys in small market this, small market that. They were lousy for 20 years. And then all of a sudden they had hope. And it didn't lead to a World Series. But, Ray, it probably led to the best run of Cleveland baseball in 40 years. You know, that exciting run from, say, 95 to 2000. When all those guys were there and they were constantly in the playoffs and the stadium was new, sellouts everywhere. And they did the same thing as the Braves did. They just inked these guys and it worked. And I'm trying to think, not many teams have done it like that since. And if they have done it, Ray, I don't know that any really failed. You know, I kind of feel like the Braves are picking up a mantle that people ignored here for the last 20 years or so.
Yeah. And, you know, with the way and you'll see it with arbitration, you know, you'll see players that are really good get paid less than guys that aren't very good. Go look at the numbers, right? And it all has to do with the scale of time on the roster and all this kind of stuff, right? And so you play it out as a team, and you're like I was saying earlier, if Corbin Carroll is just good, if Corbin Carroll's Andrew Benintendi, he's just good, right? He's going to get paid, you know, $3 million, $6 million, $9 million, 12. Like, you can go through the whole process, and in the end, you say to yourself, why not sign a guy? Make him feel good about himself. That makes the team feel better, right? That makes the fans feel better. That gives us a better chance to give him an extension at some point. So we say, you're underpaid. Let's pull Manny Machado. Let's redo this thing. Now, that's different if you're Machado because he got $300 million again. But you know what I'm saying? Let's renegotiate this thing. Maybe instead of paying him $38 million a year, which is what he's worth at that period of time, they pay him 31 because they're like, look, we've had this great relationship with. So you start, again, you have to be selective with who you give the contracts to. But, you know, you don't see teams doing this with their 13th prospect, right? They do it with their top end guys. And, you know, we'll see years down the road if it makes sense. But financially, I think it does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I seem to recall, you know, Kansas City was another team, but I don't think Hosmer never got like early money. Moustakas never got early money. For some reason, I think like Alcides Escobar might have, but you had Lorenzo Cain, Alex Gordon, like they kind of had something similar where it was built up, but they didn't hand out. And to their credit, Ray, it was probably the right decision. You know, it wouldn't have been a bad decision if they'd given Hosmer 6-7 years, but yeah, I guess it wouldn't be a bad decision. Moustakas, all those guys, since they've left, it's certainly changed. But that's a team who really didn't go about the way the Braves are doing it. And so we'll see in baseball. I always say, Ray, like your Corbin Carroll, what is he, 20, 21? I mean,
I'll look it up to verify.
Like literally, he set up his grandkids for life. Like literally at the age of 20, Ray, he's helped like the next 75 years of Carroll's to follow after him.
He's 22.
Yeah, 22.
He's 22.
Why would you say no to that? I mean,
again, yeah, absolutely. And, you know, he's 22. He has an 8-year contract. He's 30 years old.
Yeah.
If he is the guy he's supposed to be, we see it all the time, which is use the example of Manny Machado. if he's the guy he's supposed to be, here comes another $350 million when he turns 30. So not bad.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, a lot more shaking in baseball. When we return, some more spring training highlights from the weekend that was. Also, our MLB random reference. And still to come, we will introduce you to some of the odds that you can make for the NL Central. Yeah, they take odds on the NL Central. We'll run you through some of those odds coming up in a bit right here on Lunch Money.
Monday Night Rants with Edward Rouse on Bettor Sports Network.
Do you believe in the Madden curse? Do you think that's a real thing?
I did. Now, I don't think it's as big of a deal anymore, but it was a real thing for a solid 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it was Sean Alexander, LaDainian Tomlinson, Peyton Hillis.
LT was never on the cover. I know that.
Was he not? I thought he was one. Okay, well, you do know all the covers of everything.
Yeah, okay. So if you want, I could do this real quick. So Garrison Hurst is the first official Madden cover athlete, 1999. 2000, I believe they still put John Madden on the cover. And then 2001 is where it all started. So 2001, you have Eddie George. 2002, Dante Culpepper. Marshall Falk. 04, Michael Vick. 05, Ray Lewis, first defensive player on the cover.
Okay.
06, Donovan McNabb. 07, Sean Alexander.
Okay.
08, Vince Young. 09, Brett Favre.
Okay.
10 is a trick one because it's
no way you know.
And Larry Fitzgerald. 11, Drew Brees. 12, Peyton Hillis. 13, Calvin Johnson, I believe so.
You're right.
14.
No way you know it.
14, also a trick question. I believe that's the Madden 25 cover, and it's Barry Sanders, unless you got it for the new consoles, in which case Adrian Peterson
oh my God.
was on the cover.
You're not cheating. You're not looking at.
Swear on my life. Swear on my life.
Okay, keep on going.
15, you have Richard Sherman.
Okay.
16, hold on. 16 is Odell Beckham.
Okay.
16. 17, now this is the one I get mixed up because 17 and 18 are back-to-back Patriots.
They are.
17, I think, is Gronk, and 18 is Brady.
You are correct.
19 is Antonio Brown.
Correct.
20, Patrick Mahomes.
Oh my goodness.
21, Lamar Jackson. 22, Brady Mahomes. 23, John Madden. But yeah, dude, I'm a cover nerd when it comes to this stuff.
We now know, but that was really impressive. I don't know how.
Thank you.
That's literally 29 of them or something like that. Wow, that is. You did not miss a single one, and you even got the special editions where they had two people on the covers.
Monday Night Rants on Bettor Sports Network. Whether you collect sports memorabilia, fantasy championships, or winning bet slips, talk about it on Bettor Sports Network.
Now back to Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers.
Yes, indeed. We're back at you on this Monday, an extremely busy Monday. I knew coming into today it was going to be busy, but it's a whirlwind of news. NFL free agency has actually started 2 days earlier than the rules dictate. We're getting all sorts of news there, including Jimmy Garoppolo joining the Raiders. Let's see. We've got the NCAA tournament. Had a great visit with Jason Lisk earlier. It was in hour 2. If you want to take a look and to listen to that visit, which will help you on the brackets, kind of give you some insight there. Hit us up on demand with the BSN app. You sign up for $2.99 a month, and anytime you miss a single second of either Lunch Money or anything else on the network, you can always dial it up and listen at your leisure. So do check that out. Got a lot of things still to come in our final half hour or so, including our daily random reference, where we go over to our friends at baseballreference.com and we click on the random page and we see what it gives us. Today's random page, Ray, I clicked once and this is what I got.
All right.
The 1990 Milwaukee Brewers schedule with results. The Brewers were 6th in the American League East. I think there were 7 teams back then. and they were in the AL. They were 74 and 88, which you think to yourself, man, 6th place, and you were only 14 games under 500. Like we had that now, you'd be 40 under 500. Tom Trebelhorn was the manager there. Now, when I first looked at this, Ray, the first thing that caught my eye, say, oh my God, what could possibly be interested about, seeing a schedule? And this is, I don't know if I've ever seen such a thing here, Ray, but on opening day, it was April 9th that year, Monday, April 9th, the Brewers played the White Sox in Chicago.
Okay.
The very next day, they played the White Sox again, but not in Chicago. They went to Milwaukee, which, for those who know the area, I think you're about 90 minutes away from Chicago to Milwaukee. So it's kind of cool. But Ray, I don't think I've ever seen a home and home to begin the season. Maybe it's happened somewhere, but a home and home to start the season between the Brewers and the White Sox.
Yeah, I don't recall that occurring that year or other years. It probably has. So many teams on the East Coast are so close. It has to have happened at some point, right? But it is rare. Kind of cool, I guess, though, right? I mean, it's kind of cool and different, but I don't know. It's the opening. If it was done in August, you may not like it, but at the start of the year, it's probably fine, right? If you're a player.
It's a quick. I'm trying to think if that's the first year of Comiskey. If maybe if Comiskey Park opened that year. Maybe that was 89. That may have been 89 or 88 even. I don't know. The new Comiskey there. I always remember Comiskey got built and they designed everything before the coolness of Camden Yards.
Right.
And so Comiskey was like a total swing and miss for building stadiums. Because as soon as Camden came about, everybody said, dude, we want that.
Yeah.
And that's and now to this day, the White Sox are still stuck with the new Comiskey.
91 is what it looks like, Kyle.
91. So this was the last year of the crappy Comiskey.
Right.
Now, I've been to the crappy Comiskey.
Okay.
I was really young, though. I don't remember much. I want to say I was maybe like 10 or 11. But Ray, I've also been to Old County Stadium, which is where the Brewers played in 1990.
Right.
And what I recall about that, two things. So they were still an AL team. And my favorite of all time, the Red Sox were in town and Ellis Burks was playing. That was the first time I got to see Ellis Burks in the flesh, And back then I wasn't watching Ellis Burks on TV.
Right.
Only when they made the postseason. But the other thing, County Stadium was such an old, and I say this with pure affection, total dump. It was a real dump, down the middle. Well, it's actually where the new ballpark is now. But Ray, they had something, and maybe your place, Candlestick, had this.
Okay.
Busch Stadium did not have this, but County Stadium had, in effect, 2 decks.
Mm-hmm.
You had a giant lower deck.
Yep.
And then you had like an overhanging upper deck.
Candlestick. Yep.
Yeah. So maybe, and Ray, I don't know if Candlestick had this, but at County Stadium, you go out to the concessions.
Mm-hmm.
You had to walk across a very long ramp that was over the lower deck. So all the people were seating below you. You could look down on top of their heads. And it was a very long metal ramp. And you could drop sodas and beers over that. You could come back with your hot dog and spill mustard. Guess a brat in Milwaukee. But Ray, I remember that and nowadays you will never see that again, where people can literally drop whatever the hell they want on you.
Mm-hmm.
But there was nothing below you except the seats, Ray. You'd walk this long ramp back and forth to the concessions, and you just look below you, and it's like all these people sitting down there. Very unique.
Candlestick was a stadium built by cement, so there were no the lower deck went way back, and then that's where the food concessions were behind that. So you would walk into the door to the lower deck, and you were in darkness for like 300 feet because the upper deck was. I'm telling you, man, it's probably 200 feet, seriously, of just darkness because there was a massive shelf from the upper level. But no, where the two of them met, the concessions were outside on the concourse. Behind it, there were no places to walk and chuck.
Do you ever sit back, because you were at this game? Do you ever sit back and say, I don't know how that stadium withstood the earthquake?
Yeah, October 17th, 1989, 5:04 p.m. Giants Athletics World Series. I was there, lower box, section 5, row H. We were, when it happened, it was so everyone was stupid. It legitimately happened, and everyone cheered because it's like, oh, it's California earthquake, yay! And it was, it was kind of an undulating, almost like you're on a roller coaster kind of feel. But the stadium didn't tumble, nothing toppled, and
I remember the concrete kind of fall in a couple spots.
Upper deck, it started cracking, and then a couple
Yeah.
pieces fell off. But again, I was lower box. We didn't. It wasn't obvious. Nothing fell toward the field. Right? It was underneath.
I got newsflash, Ray. When you're in an earthquake, you want to be on the top, not on the bottom. Like
Well,
you were
we should have run out in the middle of the field. Like all the players grabbed their families and ran to the center of the field, which is But yeah, we didn't realize until like 15 minutes. I've told the story. The guy like 3 rows behind us had his little Watchman TV. It's a Sony. It's like this big. Like a shoebox, and like this much of it was the TV set, and he screamed out the Bay Bridge collapsed, and then everyone started freaking out. But no, in retrospect, yes, it was pretty surprising. But as we learned, a lot of the areas on landfill and such in the Bay Area, they absorbed the quake pretty well.
Yeah, landfill kind of saved because so much concrete that wouldn't
move at all. Yeah,
doesn't really work in an earthquake. And I'm sure they knew they were in San Francisco when they built the stick, but. Let's be honest. It was built. When was that built? 50s?
That I think the first 60, 61 was when it opened. Yeah.
Early
so right
50s.
there at the end. But yeah, I mean, that whole area out there is basically on the bay. You've been to the stadium where the park used to be. But that's why everything here, and it's odd because everything here is built with wood because you need it to flex, right? There's no, like you're looking for a brick home and
they
I'm
don't
finding that.
exist.
Like there's
Yeah.
so but yeah, we were lucky that everyone made it through that, at least at the game, safely.
It's one of the things here in the Midwest, we're on a fault line too, not near as active as your fault line, but everything here is brick. All the houses are old brick houses. So we'll see how that goes. Real quickly on the 1990 Brewers, their top player, according to WAR. And this is a team that had Paul Molitor, Robin Yount, Gary Sheffield, Teddy Higuera.
Yeah, good team.
Even had Dave Parker on this team. He was at the end, but the top WAR guy, Ray.
I know.
Ron Robinson.
I saw that. I was like, wait, what? Because I pulled the team up. I saw that, by the way, Terry Francona had 4 plate appearances that year with that. But yeah, I pulled him up too because I was like, Ron Robinson, like 12 and 5, 2.90 ERA.
Yeah.
A 1.32 whip. Yeah. Through 150 innings. I mean, yeah, threw some valuable innings there, I guess, but that wasn't exactly a standout season.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That is our random reference for today, courtesy of baseballreference.com. A couple of spring training things, and we'll take a break, come back with our NL Central look. Things over the weekend. Grayson Rodriguez, very popular young pitcher, might or might not break camp with the Orioles, was cruising. 3 scoreless innings, gets to the 4th inning, couple of walks, couple of hits, 5 base runners overall, doesn't get an out. He gives up 4 runs. Ray's going to make the line look bad for the rest of the spring, and like I said, he was scoreless through 3. Where do we stand? It's got to be, you think in May for Grayson Rodriguez, or is that too early with the Orioles?
No, I mean, I think there's a chance he breaks with the team, but the real issue is if they're looking at, and I think they are looking at him at 120, 25 innings like that, like how do you stretch that out? Like, how do you, if you're, do you want to shut this guy down on August 6th? No. So it's not the worst thing in the world to send him down, get him a little bit more work, get him a little sharpness, save a few of the real innings for the big. So whereas I was kind of like 55% he's going to make the rotation a couple of weeks ago. Now I'm probably 45%. I think it's still possible, but it would not be surprising at all if they sent him down to the minors and kind of protected the innings a little bit.
Staying in the Grapefruit League, Yankees. Obviously, injuries have been a problem there. You have the Frankie Montas issue. Nestor Cortez still isn't back. Carlos Rodon's going to miss time. Harrison Bader is going to miss time. Outside of that, Ray, the thing happening with the Yankees right now is these young guys are getting a lot of playing time. They're in almost every lineup. They are succeeding. I mean, Jason Dominguez hit his 4th home run of the spring over the weekend. Volpe and Peraza are there were a couple of days where there was like an injury, I think, and then your natural resting. But overall, Ray, you look at it, it's like it almost appears the Yankees are going to give these guys opening day jobs with the way they're building this lineup. Anthony Rizzo just missed a game with a sore back, that continues it. I kind of think like we're going to see a lot of Volpe, Peraza, and even Dominguez this year.
Yeah, Dominguez, and I've had people ask me about Dominguez. Like Dominguez is 6 years old. Okay, so
He does. I saw an interview, Ray. I think he does have braces. That's how young he is.
I mean, he's very, he turned 20 like a month ago. He can't even drink. He has 5 games played above A ball. He's not making the team. Okay, it's not happening.
He'll be up before the end of the year, Ray. Mark my word.
I think we see him. I think that's totally reasonable. But he's not. He's not. This is the Yankees. It's not the Pirates, right? They're going to go make a move if they have to get someone. But the other 2 guys are very intriguing, especially Volpe, because this is a guy that obviously has shown a tremendous ability to steal bases. And we know that we're all excited about the steal this year and all that. But, this guy looks like, day one, I'm stealing 30 bags if I'm playing. And, he and Peraza in particular, they're moving up the rankings at fantasyguru.com, and they have been for the last couple of weeks, because with every week that goes by, it's not just these guys are going to be seeing time in the big leagues this year. These guys might actually be in the starting lineup on day one.
Yeah. But hey, not all prospects hit. Even some that win Rookie of the Year, they don't stick. Kyle Lewis, your 2020 Rookie of the Year winner, he's now with Arizona. He was traded from the Mariners. He's having a decent spring, though. Now, Ray, all the talk in Arizona is about the other young guys, McCarthy and Carroll and all the. You think Kyle Lewis is there a chance here with Kyle Lewis? It seems like ancient history, and I guess it was only it was 60 games, but he won the Rookie of the Year. He was considered a prospect coming up. I don't think he's draftable right now, but there could maybe be an opening to playing time here if one of these young guys were to struggle.
Yeah, I mean, the real difficulty for Lewis is that the Diamondbacks signed Gurriel, which Gurriel's playing, right? Okay, so he's playing, Corbin Carroll's playing. You're going to have Alec Thomas and Jake McCarthy. So you can't. I don't.
Gurriel's your DH,
but I'm saying he's playing every day, so it takes up a spot where Kyle Lewis could have. Because Lewis, at one point in time, Lewis was thought of as a potential 2020 guy. But he's had tons of injuries to his lower body, and he's had a hard time staying healthy, but he can hit. It's hard to find where's the spot. Like you're saying, I think that it takes an injury, to your point. I think, because, maybe they keep him as their 4th guy, or they're and he's in and out of the lineup.
That's what I was kind of thinking as a 4th outfielder. And, Carroll, okay, he's going to get a ton of leash. And I know people are expecting big things for the other 2, but if they're slumping, I mean, Lewis yesterday, 3 for 3, a homer and 5 ribbies. He had a huge afternoon. And I don't think they're going to delay the other guys, Ray, so they can give a shot to Kyle Lewis. But I kind of think he'd be a really good 4th outfielder for a team like Arizona.
Yeah, and absolutely. When you're talking about all those guys, even McCarthy had all that success, and Carroll and Thomas, these guys are not locks to be hitting 278 with a 350 on base percentage after April, right? Like there could be, let's start platoon this a little bit here, that kind of thing. So Kyle Lewis is not draftable, as you pointed out. He's not draftable in mixed leagues, but he's someone to keep an eye on, put on a watch list, because there's certainly a chance that at some point this season, a lot of people will be picking him up off the waiver wire.
Justin May of the Dodgers, 7 strikeouts and 4 scoreless innings yesterday. Good effort by him. And today's the day Alejandro Kirk will make his spring debut. I guess that child was born. I never got the conclusion of that story.
I didn't see it either, actually.
Yeah. I guess congratulations to the Kirk family, but he has made it to camp. He skipped the WBC, making his debut. Probably was supposed to be at camp a month ago. He'll make his debut today. So all things are well that end well, I guess, for Alejandro Kirk. Final timeout for us. On the flip side, we've got lunch hunch, we've got dessert, and our first look. Wagering style of the NL Central. Is there money to be made in the futures market for the NL Central? Well, we'll let you determine that, but we'll give you the numbers next right here on Lunch Money.
Talk sports with Lisa Ann and Rick Kamla Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Bettor Sports Network.
Let me say something about Tiger. Tiger has had to redesign his entire swing. Tiger has a difference in the length of his legs because of that horrible accident. In golf, there's no hey, you can't walk the greens, you have to take a cart. So I assumed by day 3 on Sunday, the inflammation would start. He took a couple breaks where they take care of his back a little bit, but it is fascinating watching him. So it gave me this thought, is he that skilled at golf or is this a mental thing of dedication and determination? He is so dedicated to the sport that no matter what, he's relentless to it. And the dedication and determination goes to the golf, the swing, the playing, the walking, but it goes to his overall health. The average person who doesn't stay in great shape, gets in an accident like that, goes through multiple surgeries, is not recovering and going out there to walk. And that course has some pretty steep inclines, a lot of walking. I mean, how else can you factor these athletes, the Michael Jordans, the LeBrons, these players that just, their whole focus is really optimal health, optimal body skills, optimal. And then what comes next is being the best at what they do.
I think you just hit on why Tiger still has that drive. I don't know this. I don't know the man. It could just be love of the game. It could be, I want to make as much money as I can while playing. Could be all this stuff. But LA, a lot of people think Tiger Woods is the GOAT of golf. And I don't understand how you can be the GOAT of golf when you are 3 majors short of Jack Nicklaus. Okay. So like LeBron, I don't think he cares what guys like me say anymore, right? He's past Kareem. He thinks he's the GOAT. I mean, he's third on my list. He's in the debate. Many other people think he's the GOAT. He's not my GOAT. You know what I mean? So I wonder if Tiger is there, like LeBron, like, I don't care what the pundits, what the barbershops say. I'm the GOAT. I don't have to do anything more. This is all gravy. I wonder if Tiger looks at it that way.
I don't know what Tiger's mindset is in the GOAT status, but when players talk about what it's like to be at a tournament, when Tiger's playing versus when he's not, they'll tell you that they're on the greens and they can hear the roar 4 holes over, and that there is nothing that compares to the excitement of when he's present.
Bettor Sports Live, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, exclusively on Bettor Sports Network. Or listen whenever you want on the app with BSN On Demand.
Now back to Lunch Money, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Here's Kyle and Ray.
Yes, let me tell you about the birds and the bees. Let us tell you about the NL Central. We will be getting to that in just a few moments. Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers back with you. Before we talk over some of those futures for the NL Central, Ray, lunch hunch time, a long shot call for the folks at home. After all, it is lunch money, so let's make some money. What's your long shot call today?
I'm in California. We just went the history of Candlestick Park and all that here. Let's go to the winner of the World Series. We're getting, state centered now. Any state other than the 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 8 states listed. Any state other than those 8 plus 235. So if you take the field, you get the 2 plus 235. I'm taking California, which is plus 330, which is the next one on the list. New York is at plus 340, Texas at plus 500. California, obviously, we've got the Dodgers there, the Padres. You never know with the Giants in the end, but I think
and the A's, Ray,
and the Angels, and and the A's, right. But the Padres and Dodgers are probably going to be directly in the hunt, right? So I'll take that. California plus 330, again, second on the list behind the field, which is plus 235.
There's a little bit of gray area in that prop, Ray, because it says which state. Is that right? What if the province of Ontario were to win?
Good.
Toronto.
Well, that is a great question because the way it's listed is any other state.
Yeah.
Good.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
Everybody thought they're cashing a $1,500 ticket. They're like, nope. Ontario's not a state.
It's like roulette. What do you mean green is a number? What? It's not red and
black. Yeah, exactly. My lunch hunch for the NCAA tournament, and this was actually a game that Jason Lisk mentioned, and I had it written down as my lunch hunch beforehand. They're playing 7:30, actually 7:25 on Friday night. Midwest Regional. I will take a 12 over a 5. Right there. I'm taking Drake over Miami. Plus 120. So you're not getting a good payoff here. That's a very tight 12 versus 5 money line. Drake has actually won 20 plus games in each of their last 5 years. Got a lot of size. I think Jason mentioned that Miami's probably top interior guy is limping around. He got injured the other day. So that could make a difference. And again, Drake with big time experience. I went with experience earlier when I took UC Santa Barbara. I'm going with experience here in Drake. So that's Friday night. That is my lunch hunch. Plus 120 on that one. Let's keep the wagering going, shall we? And we got a lot of hunches here you can play. This week on the show, not only are we talking the shortstop position, we are also talking about the NL Central as you get set for the year. So let's take a look at some of the odds and futures and things you might be willing to play. I will say, and Ray, at the risk of sounding like an absolute homer, I really struggle to see how the Cardinals don't win this division. They just got too much firepower. They're minus 120. I'm not buying Milwaukee at plus 160. Well, Milwaukee's been underrated, and I get it. They have talent. They have pitching. Chicago 650. I love the moves the Cubs made this offseason. I really do. I think it makes them competitive. It's kind of a bridge, to where they want to get to. So if I had to take a long shot, it's actually Chicago over Milwaukee. And then, of course, Ray, Pittsburgh's 4,500 and Cincinnati's worse. How about that, Ray? Cincinnati is plus 6,000 versus the Pirates, who are plus 4,500.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect to see that coming into to play. I think the fact is that no one should be placing $1 on either team. Let's be honest; those odds need to be with a 1 in front of them.
Should they be? Should those two be close? Is Pittsburgh that much better than Cincinnati? You think?
No.
I think they're better. They should be better. I would say plus 5,200 to plus 6K.
Well, if you think if Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo take that step this year, that's
it. That's all they've got, right?
But I'm saying those are two dominant arms. That may be it. Remember, Steve Carlton won 27 games for a team that won 59 or whatever the hell it was, right? It can happen. But I'm just saying that they got to. No, I think it should be closer. I don't think there should be a plus 1,500 between the two teams.
Cincinnati's got a lot coming, but I don't think it's coming till the back end of this year.
Fair.
And all of it appears to be shortstops. So
True.
they got a lot of guys at shortstop unless they make a trade. But yeah, St. Louis might call. Here are the win totals. Cardinals 88.5, Milwaukee 85.5, the Cubs 83.5, Pittsburgh 68.5, Cincinnati 65.5. Right, let's go one by one. Over under for the Cardinals 88.5.
Remember, the schedule's not unbalanced like it used to be, so they can't get just beat up on those two teams. I'll say over.
Milwaukee 85.5.
Under.
Cubs 83.5.
Under.
Yeah, I'll go under too. Now it gets tough. Pittsburgh 68.5, Cincinnati 65.5. I got Pittsburgh over, Cincinnati under.
Under and under.
Under and under.
I'm doing it.
Okay. Well, are they both going to lose 100? No way.
I'd be very surprised to see that.
I don't think you can have two 100 loss teams.
But again, the schedule's different this year.
Yeah.
But I'd be very surprised if they both. If one loses 100, it's kind of surprising. Two would be a shock. Yeah.
Best record in baseball. St. Louis is plus 1,500. That's the 8th best on the board, which I was kind of surprised by. Not a terrible pick at 1,500. For fewest wins in baseball, Cincinnati's actually plus 550 and the Pirates are plus 1,100. And Ray, those are the 4th and 5th best picks there. Because the Washington, Oakland stuff, that's all ahead.
Right.
But man, Cincinnati is the worst team in baseball, plus 550, or the Pirates at 1,100. You can see that Pirates thing just collapse. They trade Brian Reynolds.
Right.
Brian Hayes is hurt again. O'Neal Cruz hits 202.
Mm-hmm.
Plus 1,100 is not bad for the worst team in baseball.
Better than the Reds odds substantially. So yeah, I agree with you. I would that would be the more intriguing of those two to place.
MVP is an interesting list. Goldschmidt, Arenado. Remember, these guys were top 3 last year, plus 1,400 in the NL. And then you have to go all the way down to 5,000 for O'Neal Cruz. Seiya Suzuki, 7,000. Ray, Seiya Suzuki is ahead of Christian Yelich. Yelich is at plus $8,000 on the odd.
Cruz and Suzuki, right? How are they ahead of Yelich? And again, I'm not talking.
How are any of these guys on the board?
Yeah, but it's O'Neal Cruz to win the MVP because they're going to win 63 games. O'Neal Cruz to win the MVP's got to go 40-40 or something.
I was just going to say, what if he goes 40-40 though?
Well, we'll see if a guy can win the MVP hitting 272 or 217, excuse me. But that's fool's money. Don't place that bet.
Cy Young possibilities out of the NL Central. Corbin Burns is pick number 2, plus 550. Woodruff is plus 1900, which I thought seemed really low. Hunter Green is plus 4,000. And then we got to throw Jordan Montgomery in here. Plus 10,000 for Jordan Montgomery. Rookie of the year, number 1 is Corbin Carroll, NL West. He's 380. Jordan Walker's plus 500. Now, there was a report just a few minutes ago. Walker thinks he's going to play tomorrow, so maybe that shoulder is pretty limited. Other names on this Rookie of the Year list out of the NL Central, Matt Mervis of the Cubs, 1,500. Ellie De La Cruz, he's one of those shortstops, probably the best one with Cincinnati, plus 1,500. Spencer Steer, likely third baseman for the Reds, plus 2K. Couple of Brewer outfielders, Sal Frelick and Garrett Mitchell, plus 2,200 and plus 3,000 respectively. It's a lot of names, if nothing else, out of the NL Central with the rookies, Ray.
Mitchell and Frelick are really interesting guys because they can both run. It looks like Mitchell's leg's okay. He's going to start ramping things up today, I think. Interesting option in the fantasy game this season.
I think so, too. Home run leader. This is for all of baseball. You got Goldschmidt and Arenado plus 5,000. Rowdy Tellez plus 5,500. O'Neal Cruz plus 8K. Tyler O'Neill and Cody Bellinger plus 10,000. Long shots at 10,000. Why the hell not? Stolen base leader. This is for baseball. Edmund plus 1,500. Nico Horner's plus 5,000. Right? We don't talk about Nico Horner a lot for steals. You think he's a pretty decent bet for 30?
Nico Horner became what Nick Madrigal was supposed to be. I think 30's top end for Horner. I don't think he can lead baseball in steals. Could he get to 30? Possibly.
Okay. Saves leader, Bednar, plus 1,000 is the top pick out of the NL Central. Devin Williams, 1,900. I kind of like that. 1,900. Alexis Diaz, Reds, 4,000. Brandon Hughes, Cubs, 5,000. What's fascinating here, Ray, is there's not a Cardinal on the board. They're expected to kind of run away with the division.
Right.
And we just don't know who their saves guy is. We assume it's Helsley, but it kind of shows in the odds we're not really feeling good about it.
ADP certainly suggested Helsley and Gallegos has no chance. So Gallegos does have 14 saves each of the last 2 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. So no Cardinal, though, on the board, or even if they're on the board, they're the 5th pick there for saves. A lot more on the NL Central coming tomorrow, but we wanted to give you those futures odds. Closing things down with our dessert for the day. Ray, there is a giant seaweed blob that is taking aim at Florida. And you think to yourself, oh, yeah, I've heard about these plastic things and seaweed. We've all seen it. Ray, this is giant. This tells you how big the earth is. This is something that is 5,000 miles wide, a seaweed bloom. 5,000 miles wide is bigger than the U.S., Ray.
Yep.
It's coming for Florida. Hide the women and children.
Well, I mean, it sounds stupid, but that can have all kinds of ramifications, right? Shutting down shipping lanes, screwing up the food chain, the pyramid, the whole thing. The food blob is not, the seaweed blob is not normally what we talk about. It's usually the plastic blob. I was unaware of this, Kyle. I now have to do some research.
Yeah, the seaweed blob. It's naturally occurring. It's not like we're dumping seaweed into the ocean. But I don't know if some of the things have hurt with the growth of this seaweed blob. Do you guys have a lot of seaweed out west, Ray? Because it's a thing on the East Coast. Do you get it out west on the
Not
beaches?
much. No, we do in some certain beaches have it, but generally speaking, they're like kelp forests and those kind of things. But not a problem.
Okay. Well, it's coming to Florida, so be prepared. More seaweed than normal, I guess. That'll do it for us, Ray. We'll talk again tomorrow.
Sounds like a plan, Kyle.
We'll see you on Lunch Money, 12 o'clock Eastern, right here on BSN.